Chapter 1757. Inside the Nine Infants' Devil Valley. As the light in Lai Jiufeng's palm continued to circulate, the evil energy of the 9 infants around Tang 13 slowly dissipated. She slowly calmed down. A moment later, the evil energy of the 9 infants completely disappeared from Tang 13's body. Her eyes returned to normal, and the wounds on her body slowly healed. Seeing this, Nie Tian couldn't help but let out a long breath. The others also recovered at this time. Their dull eyes became clear. Tang 13. When Tang Yuyu came to, he saw Tang 13 covered in blood. He hurriedly stepped forward and cried out, "I'm fine." Tang 13 stood up and forced a smile. Nie Tian went forward to check Tang 13's condition. He was relieved after confirming that she was fine. Then, he confirmed that Rui Qianyu and the others were fine. He finally let out a long sigh of relief. The scene just now was too dangerous. If not for Nie Tian's holographic divine glyph, everyone's consciousness would have been devoured by the 9 infants' demonic sound and turned into the 9 infants' devil cocoon's slaves. Lai Jiufeng looked at Nie Tian with lingering fear, but he did not say anything. Lai Jiufeng, didn't you say that Tang 13 would stay awake? At this time, Duan Tianhen suddenly stepped forward and questioned Lai Jiufeng. If Lai Jiufeng had not made such a promise, Gao Yuhan and Duan Tianhen might not have supported him. The 9 infants' devil cocoon's power has exceeded my expectations, Lai Jiufeng said indifferently, his expression calm. Lai Jiufeng, will Tang 13 be controlled again? Nie Tian walked over and asked Lai Jiufeng. Lai Jiufeng had saved Tang 13, and Nie Tian had saved Lai Jiufeng. The two were even. No, Lai Jiufeng replied gravely. He was very confident. He had already activated the 3 lives devil seal in Tang 13's eyes. The one who could control Tang 13 now was not the 9 infants' devil cocoon, but him. Lai Jiufeng's emotions were a little abnormal. He probably felt defeated after almost having his consciousness devoured by the 9 infants' devil cocoon. Nie Tian shot Lai Jiufeng a glance. He knew that Lai Jiufeng was planning something. However, he wasn't too worried, because Fat Cat was also prepared. Next, everyone rested for a while to recover from their injuries. The place we are at now is called the 9 Infants' Demon Valley. After a while, Nie Tian felt that his condition had improved a lot. He stood up and looked at the steep stone walls around him. At this moment, Gao Yuhan walked over and nodded. This should be where the 9-headed neonate demon cocoon resides. However, it's very strange. The surrounding mountain walls are all sealed off. It's not much different from an ordinary valley. Nie Tian looked around with the same puzzled expression. From what Tang 13 could sense, the 9-headed snakelet demon cocoon should be nearby, but there was nothing in the valley. Nie Tian, the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon, is very close to us. It's about to awaken. We have to find it as soon as possible. Tang 13 walked over with a slightly nervous expression. The evil energy of the 9-headed snakelet in his eyes was suppressed, but he could still sense the existence of the 9-headed snakelet demon cocoon. Nie Tian's eyes flashed. Of course he wanted to find the 9-headed snakelet demon cocoon, but it wasn't an easy task. The 9-headed snakelet demon cocoon had just appeared. Its combat power wasn't very strong, but the demonic voice of the 9-headed snakelet was very terrifying. Right now, the 9-headed snakelet demon cocoon hadn't awakened yet. If it completely awakened, it would be troublesome. Fat, can you sense anything? Nie Tian used his consciousness to carefully sense the surroundings. Finding nothing out of the ordinary, he could only ask Fat Cat. There should be some kind of formation here, but this formation is a little strange. I can't sense its existence at all. Fat Cat's expression was also a little puzzled as it frowned. Let me try. At this time, Lan Yiru suddenly stepped forward. A white stone appeared in her hand. This is... Seeing the white stone, Fat Cat's eyes widened. she said in shock. Myriad formation spirit stone. Myriad formation spirit stone? Nye Tian was stunned. He didn't know what Fat Cat was talking about. Myriad formation spirit stone. This is the favorite of divine formation masters. It can sense the aura of almost all formations. It can even draw a formation diagram. Fat Cat's blue eyes flashed as she said excitedly. Nye Tian was also stunned. He had some knowledge about formations. The stone in Lan Yiru's hand could not only sense formations, but it could also draw a formation diagram. This was very abnormal. No wonder this little girl has such high attainments in formations despite her young age. Turns out that she has something like the myriad formation spirit stone. Fat Cat said. Her eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of passion. Everyone's gaze fell on Lan Yiru. She opened her palm and raised it. The myriad formation spirit stone floated in the air and slowly released a white halo. Circle after circle, it spread out in the air like ripples. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect Lan Yiru to have such a method. As the white halo spread out, a magical scene happened. Scattered formation runes gradually appeared in the air. They were visible to the naked eye. Then, they slowly became clearer and clearer. Finally, they connected together and formed a hidden formation in front of everyone. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They were stunned by the scene in front of them. Nye Tian looked at the formation in the air. He was also stunned for a long time before he reacted. Phew! Lan Yiru exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Beads of sweat had already appeared on her forehead. It seemed that activating the myriad formation spirit stone was a huge burden on her. Next, she put the myriad formation spirit stone away. Then, a rune vortex appeared on her palm. She gently raised it and sent it into the formation in the air. Boom! At this moment, the formation in the air sensed something and started operating. Everyone was stunned at first. Then, they became nervous. They were worried that there was some terrifying killing intent hidden in the formation. However, Lan Yiru's face was calm. She looked at the formation in the valley calmly. This little girl is amazing. She will definitely become a formation grandmaster in the future. Fat Cat looked at Lan Yiru and couldn't help but praise. Lan Yiru was young, but she already had the temperament of a grandmaster. Her future was limitless. As the formation in the air continued to operate, runes appeared one after another. They slowly gathered together and surged towards a black boulder. This is the eye of the formation. Lan Yiru smiled in surprise. Her figure nimbly landed beside the black boulder. The others walked over and saw circles of runes surging on the black boulder. Then, the color of the boulder slowly changed. Everyone's eyes sparkled. They were shocked by the scene in front of them. Boom! At this moment, the black boulder suddenly released a black light and landed on the cliff of the valley. Chapter 1758. Everyone looked at the tunnel in front of them and froze. They couldn't react for a long time. Nye Tian's reaction was very calm. This wasn't the first time he had seen such a formation. The 9-headed neonate demon cocoon is in there. Tang 13 suddenly shouted and pointed at the tunnel. The corner of Nye Tian's mouth twitched slightly as he stepped in without the slightest hesitation. Entering the tunnel, Nye Tian felt that the dark aura in the air was much thicker. The air was very dense, giving people a feeling of suffocation. Though the tunnel was very wide, it was very dark and eerie. Walking in it, one could feel the bone-chilling cold. As everyone went deeper, the cold aura in the air became thicker and thicker. Nye Tian walked at the front. He was very careful. The holographic sacred glyph was always on, carefully sensing everything in the air. At the same time, Nye Tian was also paying attention to Tang 13, worried that she would lose control again. I really didn't expect you to be able to enter here. Just then, a low voice suddenly sounded in the air. It was very ear-piercing. It's the 9-headed neonate demon cocoon. Nye Tian suddenly froze. He immediately recognized that this was the voice of the 9-headed neonate demon cocoon. He shouted, "Everyone, don't listen to this voice." Everyone reacted. They all held their breaths and blocked their 5 senses. They had already been controlled by the 9-headed neonate demon voice once. How could they be controlled a second time? Nie Tian wasn't afraid. Instead, he carefully sensed the source of the voice. "You ants want to stop me from awakening? What a joke." The 9-headed neonate demon cocoon laughed loudly and arrogantly said, "If you want to see my real body, you must first deal with the enemies in front of you." Hiss, hiss, hiss. Just then, there was an ear-piercing sound in the air. It sounded like something was crawling on the stone walls. Nie Tian's nerves tightened. He immediately sensed something. His expression changed and he shouted, "Everyone, be careful!" As soon as he finished speaking, many dark figures suddenly appeared on the surrounding cliffs. "What is that?" Duan Tianhen was a little impulsive. He looked at the things on the cliffs and shouted. Everyone looked over and their faces stiffened. The things crawling on the cliff were too strange. They looked like silkworms, but they had hands and feet. Their faces were also half human and half cocoon. It was very strange. "This is the demonic cocoon slave that I have cultivated. Enjoy it." At this moment, the Jiuying demonic cocoon's voice sounded again. It was extremely violent. Demonic silkworm slave? Everyone was stunned. They didn't know what kind of monster it was. At this moment, the demonic chrysalis slaves rushed over and pounced on the group. Their auras were extremely ferocious, and the evil energy of Jiuying surged around them like black flames. "Kill!" Nie Tian let out a low roar and stabbed out with the starlight heaven slash. Numerous sword images whizzed out at the same time and swept towards the demonic silkworm slave. Bang! 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 Several muffled sounds rang out as the silkworm demon slave was struck by the sword shadows and smashed heavily into the stone wall. The silkworm cocoon around it cracked open, revealing its human form. The silkworm cocoon cracked open, and the demonic slaves became even more ferocious. They charged over with their claws and fangs bared. Nie Tian frowned. He struck out with his sword and killed a demonic slave. These demonic slaves weren't very strong. Without using the 3 forbidden skills, Nie Tian could easily kill the demonic silkworm slave with the protection of Tang 13's eye power. The others also attacked and killed several demonic silkworm slaves in an instant. However, there were many demonic slaves. There were tens of thousands of them, and they pounced over aggressively. "Damn it!" Duan Tianhen roared. He took a step forward and charged over. He shouted, "I want to see what kind of monster you are." Duan Tianhen was extremely angry. He punched out and the power of the wind and thunder seal exploded. It surged out like a tsunami and enveloped the army of demonic slaves. Boom! Wherever the wind and thunder seal passed, the silkworm cocoons around the demonic slaves cracked open, revealing human-like bodies. Nie Tian could see that the silkworm cocoons of the demonic slaves were formed from the evil energy of the 9 neonate. The wind and thunder seal had an absolute counter to the evil energy of the 9 neonate, so it could easily break open the silkworm cocoons. "I got it!" At this moment, Gao Yuhan seemed to have discovered something. She exclaimed, "These silkworm cocoons belong to the warriors who participated in the 9 neonate forbidden hunt." The others were stunned, but they immediately understood. Gao Yuhan was right. These silkworm cocoons were 70% human, and their strength was around the level of a lord. It was just that their combat ability was far weaker than a lord. These silkworm cocoons belonged to the warriors who participated in the 9 neonate forbidden hunt. The 9 neonate demonic cocoon had actually turned these warriors who died in the 9 neonate mountain range into silkworm cocoons. These silkworm cocoons were clearly mindless monsters. They were better off dead than alive. "Kill them all!" Duan Tianhen roared angrily. With a slap, he killed dozens of silkworm cocoons. Seeing this, Nie Tian and the others all acted. Instantly, the entire passageway became a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Countless silkworm cocoons fell to the ground and became corpses. Kill them. Kill them well. These people are as stupid as you. In the void, the voice of the 9 neonate demonic cocoon rang out again. It sounded cold and bloody. Nye Tian gradually understood the purpose of the 9 neonate forbidden hunt. It was to attract the genius warriors of the various subsidiary worlds to fall here and become nourishment for the 9 neonate demonic cocoon. Gao Yuhan had said that the 9 neonate demonic cocoon relied on absorbing the blood of warriors to survive. Nye Tian guessed that the 9 neonate demonic cocoon was only interested in warriors with high martial arts talent. This was because, generally speaking, the higher the talent of a warrior, the stronger the life force in their blood, and the stronger the power it contained. The blood of warriors dissipated in the 9 neonate mountain range. It was absorbed by the 9 neonate demonic cocoon. As for the 9 neonate forbidden hunt, there were only 9 winners each time. It was just to allow the hunt to continue. If there were no winners, who would participate in the 9 neonate forbidden hunt? Thinking this through, Nye Tian's anger rose. His entire body was filled with murderous intent. Nye Tian, we have to rush over. The 9 neonate demonic cocoon is awakening. These demonic slaves are trying to delay us. At this moment, Tang 13 shouted anxiously. She could feel that the 9 neonate demonic cocoon was about to awaken. All right. Nye Tian nodded his head. With a low roar, he activated the 3 forbidden stones. The long sword in his hand pierced out. The shadow of the sword was like a dragon. It rolled out and pressed towards the demonic slave. Rumble! The terrifying shadow of the sword fell. The sky was filled with blood. Countless demonic slaves fell into a pool of blood. Nye Tian's figure rushed forward. Seeing this, the others followed closely behind Nye Tian. The group passed through the army of demonic slaves and soon arrived at a spacious area. In front of them was a bottomless abyss that emitted dark evil energy. In the abyss, there were dozens of towering pillars. In the center, a black whirlpool surged crazily. 9 neonate demonic cocoon. When Nye Tian saw the black whirlpool, his eyes trembled and he could not help but shout. Chapter 1759. Nye Tian looked at the black vortex in midair. His pupils constricted in surprise. That black vortex was the 9-headed demon cocoon. At this moment, a dark face surged out of the black vortex. Its abyss-like eyes stared at Nye Tian and the others. It was sinister and cold. I'm really surprised that you can come here, the 9-headed demon cocoon said darkly. Its voice was like silk, and it seemed to be even more depressed. Nye Tian stared at the 9-headed fiend demon cocoon with a burning gaze. This was the first time he had seen the true form of the 9-headed fiend demon cocoon. Sensing the dark aura in the space, he actually felt a chill run down his spine. The vortex in front of him was like darkness itself. It could devour all light. Such a dense dark aura. Could it be? At this moment, Fat Cat suddenly screamed. Her eyes were dull, and her expression was very flustered. Fat, what did you find? Nye Tian asked in surprise when he saw Fat Cat's reaction. He rarely saw Fat Cat so flustered. It must have found something. Nye Tian, this guy could be. Fat Cat said in shock. Her voice was trembling, and she couldn't finish her sentence. What is it? Nye Tian was so anxious that beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. But at this moment, a figure suddenly rushed out and roared, That is the 9-headed demon cocoon. Let me destroy it. Duan Tianhen. Nye Tian was stunned. When he saw the figure clearly, he screamed. Duan Tianhen was too impulsive. He actually rushed over. Tianhen. Gao Yuhan was stunned. She wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Duan Tianhen was very brave. In midair, the aura around him surged crazily. Terrifying wind and thunder celestial seal circulated all over his body. He slapped out with his palm, and a palm shadow thousands of meters wide appeared. It rolled out and pressed towards the nine-headed demon cocoon. Nie Tian was stunned. He didn't expect Duan Tianhen's palm to be so strong. But in the next moment, he noticed something. It turned out that the martial arts restrictions around this abyss no longer existed. As of this moment, Duan Tianhen could unleash the full power of an early paramount god. Courting death. In the air, the dark face let out an enraged roar, and its abyss-like eyes slightly dilated, appearing extremely demonic. Boom! In the next moment, a terrifying force suddenly surged up from the abyss and soared into the sky like a surging wave. Boom! As the massive palm descended, it was obstructed by that terrifying force. A terrifying rumble resounded in the sky as the palm crumbled and was submerged in the abyss. The fifth seal is very strong. It's a pity that you're too weak. The nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon laughed coldly. Then, a sinister bone claw suddenly appeared from the abyss below. Like a metal chain, it shot out and grabbed Duan Tianhen. Duan Tianhen felt a terrifying power pressing down on him, and he wanted to resist, but he was unable to move at all. He immediately let out a miserable howl. Tianhen. Seeing this, Gao Yuhan wanted to rush over to save him. But as soon as she leaped out, a giant black net appeared in the space around her, blocking her way. Break! Gao Yuhan shouted and struck out with her palm, bombarding the giant black net. But it was like a clay ox entering the sea, and the power of her palm was absorbed by the black net. At the same time, Duan Tianhen's figure was dragged into the abyss by the sinister bone claw, and he disappeared in an instant. Damn it! Gao Yuhan roared, and her 9 colored pupils opened. Endless eye power surged out, and a red flame appeared, bombarding the giant black net, but it was still absorbed. The giant black net suddenly became violent, and it pounced towards Gao Yuhan, intending to swallow her whole. Watch out! Seeing this, Nie Tian no longer hesitated. With a low roar, he stabbed out with the starry sky slash. Endless power of the stars surged out of his body, and a starlight sword shadow appeared, rushing towards the giant black net. Boom! The sword shadow landed, and with a loud bang, a huge hole appeared in the giant black net. Seeing this, Gao Yuhan's figure blurred, and she retreated. Huh! Seeing the power of his sword, Nie Tian couldn't help but frown, and a look of confusion appeared on his face. There were no martial arts restrictions on the outside of the abyss, so Gao Yuhan could use her full strength. She was a late paramount god, and even if Nie Tian used his 3 forbidden skills, he would only have the strength of an early overgod. The difference between the two of them was like heaven and earth. But Gao Yuhan couldn't break through the giant black net, and Nie Tian was able to tear it apart with a single sword strike. It was really puzzling. Logically speaking, Gao Yuhan should have been able to kill Nie Tian with a single strike. Why was it that the strength she had displayed was weaker than Nie Tian? Gao Yuhan was also astonished, and she didn't know what was going on. Nie Tian didn't have time to think too much, and he moved to Gao Yuhan's side and asked, "Elder, are you all right?" "I'm fine," replied Gao Yuhan. Gao Yuhan replied, but her gaze was fixed on the abyss. Duan Tianhen had been pulled into the abyss, and she didn't know if he was alive or dead. Nie Tian, don't let her use the 9 color pupils again. The power of the 9 color pupils is special, and it will only accelerate the awakening of the demon cocoon. At this moment, the fat cat's voice rang out, and it was urgent. Only then did Nie Tian remember that the 9 color pupils didn't have any destructive power against the demon cocoon, and instead helped it. The demon cocoon had absorbed the power of the 9 color pupils, and that was why it had awakened. Gao Yuhan was someone with the 9 color pupils, and the power of the blood devourer had already spread throughout her body, so even if she didn't use the 9 color pupils, when she attacked normally, there would still be a strong aura of the blood devourer. Actually, What really awakened the demon cocoon wasn't the power of the 9-color pupils, but the power of the blood devour that accompanied the power of the 9-color pupils. Because of this, Gao Yuhan's attack was completely useless against the demon cocoon, because the power of the blood devour in her body was too strong. Warriors with the 9-color pupils, whether it was when they used their power of the eye or when they attacked normally, all of their power contained a very strong power of the blood devour. On the other hand, Nie Tian's power of the stars had a strong suppressive power against all kinds of elemental powers, especially the dark elemental power, which had a stronger suppressive power. Nie Tian became cold for a moment. Looking at the abyss in front of him, his eyes couldn't help but flicker. Duan Tianhen was too rash, and he had actually been dragged into the abyss. His heavenly extreme wind thunder seal had a natural suppressive power against the evil power of the demon cocoon, and it was the strongest weapon against the demon cocoon. At this moment, the dark face suddenly became calm, and a pair of dark eyes stared at Nie Tian, as though it was thinking about something. "Fat, what did you want to say just now?" Nie Tian asked anxiously, thinking about Fat Cat's reaction just now. "Nie Tian, does this noble one know what the nature of the demon cocoon is?" Fat Cat was much calmer, but its voice was still trembling. "What is it?" Nie Tian's expression changed, and he asked in shock. Chapter 1760. Dark Elemental Origin Energy? Nie Tian couldn't help but be taken aback upon hearing little Fat Cat's words, and he couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. He had already heard of the power of origin from little Fat Cat before, and he himself had the power of origin, Terra Vein Source. The most well-known source energy was metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, and darkness. They were known as the 9 great sources. The ley line source in Nie Tian's hand was part of the earth source energy, the ley line source. What appeared in front of Nie Tian and the others was the dark source energy of the 9 great sources, the dark abyss. Nie Tian had never expected that he would encounter another kind of origin power in this place. After being flabbergasted for a while, Nie Tian finally calmed down and asked, "Little fatty, are you sure this is the origin of darkness power?" "I'm sure." Fat Cat nodded and said, "If I'm not wrong, this should be one of the 3 parts of the dark abyss, the heart of darkness." The dark abyss was divided into 3 parts: the heart of darkness, the hand of darkness, and the soul of darkness. When the 3 parts merged into one, it would be the complete dark abyss. What appeared in front of them was the heart of darkness. No wonder the evil energy of the 9-headed infant released by the 9-headed infant demon cocoon could completely deal with the power of blood devour. It turned out that the evil energy of the 9-headed infant demon cocoon was a form of dark source energy. The reason why the power of blood devour could awaken the 9-headed infant demon cocoon was because this power was the darkest blood energy. The 9-colored eyes represented the power of light. The power of blood devour devoured the blood energy of warriors with the 9-colored eyes and condensed it into the power of blood devour. Such a familiar aura. Don't tell me it's... At that moment, the dark face suddenly opened its mouth and stared at Nie Tian with its abyssal eyes. "Origin star stones," it said in a deep voice. Upon hearing these words, Nie Tian went blank, his eyes flickering involuntarily. Although he often used the power of the stars, very few people could sense the raw star stone. He didn't expect the 9-headed infant demon cocoon to know about the raw star stone. It really is a primordial star stone. No wonder it has such a strong suppressive effect on the power of darkness. The dark face caught Nie Tian's reaction and actually let out a strange laugh. It said arrogantly, "Looks like I'm quite lucky to be able to encounter an origin star stone right after awakening." Nie Tian was stunned again. It seemed like the 9-neonate demon cocoon was very interested in his raw star stones. In fact, up until now, Nie Tian still didn't know what the raw star stone was, nor did he know what kind of power the power of the stars was. Nye Tian, attack now! Fat Cat sensed that the power of the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon was getting stronger and stronger. She shouted for Nye Tian to take action. All right. Nye Tian agreed. He could tell that the nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon was very afraid of the raw star stone. He didn't hesitate anymore. His body moved and released a huge amount of star power. He activated the sky shrouding totem, activated the Star River Forbidden Space, and covered his body with a Star Soul shield. The Star Soul flame surged on the blade of his sword. At the same time, Star Soul armor appeared on his body and Star Soul wings appeared on his back. Nye Tian used almost all his star power. He wanted to severely injure or even kill the nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon before it completely awakened. Lad, the raw star stone is good stuff. It's a pity that you haven't awakened all the star power, so you can't unleash the true power of the raw star stone. The nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon laughed maniacally. Following which, a terrifying power of darkness surged up from the abyss and condensed into countless black claws, grabbing at Nye Tian. Boom! 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 At the same time, from the darkness of the abyss, dozens of figures rushed out. Their bodies were surging with a terrifying aura of darkness. Their aura was turbulent and terrifying. Nye Tian was suppressed by the aura of darkness and was forced to retreat. He steadied himself and could not help but gasp. The figures that appeared before him were all guards of the forbidden ground of the nine-headed snakelet. After the nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon absorbed the blood of these guards, they were turned into demonic cocoon slaves. Cocoons formed from the evil energy of the nine-headed snakelet coiled around them, constantly releasing a dark aura that was cold and evil. These demonic cocoon slaves were very strong. Although they were slightly weaker than when they were alive, they still surpassed the peak of the overgod level. Brat, you are someone who possesses the fiend god nascent embryo. Moreover, your body has fused with the raw star stone. You originally had the chance to stop me from awakening. It's a pity that you are too weak. The nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon laughed maniacally. The evil energy of the nine-headed snakelet in the air became thicker and thicker, and the dark face of nothingness became clearer and clearer. Nye Tian, leave these cocoons to us. At this moment, Lian Jiufeng's figure appeared. With a low roar, he directly released the golden flame ancestral dragon. Immediately, terrifying flames spread out, and the space seemed to be burning. Tang 13 and Gui Wuchan also appeared, standing behind Nye Tian. Gao Yuhan and Rui Qinyu stood outside the abyss. Both of them possessed the nine-color pupils. If they attacked, the nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon would awaken even faster. Tang Yuyu and the rest were too weak, and did not dare to enter the abyss. Cover me! Seeing that the nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon was about to awaken, Nye Tian's eyes trembled. With a low roar, the wings on his back flapped, and he directly charged towards the black whirlpool in the air. Almost at the same time, dozens of demonic cocoon slaves attacked at the same time. A terrifying pressure pressed down on Nye Tian like a landslide or tsunami. Nye Tian did not care at all. His figure was like the wind, and he charged forward like lightning. Roar! The golden flame ancestral dragon roared angrily at the sky. Its body rolled, and an unparalleled dragon might blocked the combined attack of the demonic cocoon slave. Lian Jiufeng, Tang 13, and Gui Wuchan attacked at the same time, killing the demonic cocoon slaves. Nye Tian's figure rushed forward, and the power of the stars around him was pushed to the extreme. Starlight shot tens of thousands of meters away. Starry Sky ancient martial technique, Starry Sky devouring kill. In the next moment Nye Tian roared. The power of the stars around him gathered, and he stabbed out with his sword. Suddenly, a starlight sword shadow appeared, and it merged perfectly with the star soul flame. Like a meteor, it attacked the nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon. The nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon was slightly stunned, and it seemed to be a little nervous. It did not expect Nyetian to be able to use the power of the stars to such an extent. The perfect fusion of the power of the stars was enough to pose a fatal threat to it. No one can stop me from awakening. At that moment, the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon suddenly let out a fierce roar. Immediately after, the black vortex trembled and a terrifying power of darkness surged out, forming waves visible to the naked eye that spread in all directions. In order to not be killed by Nyetian, the nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon could only take the risk and break out of its cocoon in advance. Boom! In the next moment, the huge starlight sword shadow bombarded the wave of darkness. A violent explosion sounded, and the space suddenly froze, as if it had suddenly stopped. Nyetian, who was in midair, felt the terrifying power pressing down on him. The starlight heaven slash in his hand shook slightly, and it let out a trembling sword cry. Pust pust pust. Terrifying sounds came from the sky, and the wave of darkness devoured everything. The starlight sword shadow finally could not hold on any longer, and it instantly shattered. Nyetian's figure shook, and he flew backwards, drawing a bloody trail in the air. Nyetian! Rui Chenyu saw this and couldn't help but scream, and her face was as white as paper. At this moment, Nyetian's wings shook, and he forcefully stabilized his body. His blood-red eyes stared at the dark figure in the sky. In midair, a dark figure stood like an abyss. It was the nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon. Chapter 1761. The nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon stood in the air. It was like an abyss that constantly emitted a dark aura. It was extremely terrifying. The nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon has awakened? Nyetian looked at the dark figure and frowned slightly. His eyes trembled a little. In the end, he was still one step too late. The nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon had awakened. However, the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon did not seem to be completely solid. Its figure was a little blurry and looked very strange. I have finally awakened. Although it is not a complete state, it is enough to kill you little ants. The nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon said in a deep voice. Its eyes were filled with murderous intent. A condensed murderous intent spread out and filled the entire abyss. Nyetian sensed the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon's strength, but he was not sure how strong it was. All of you must die. In the next moment, the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon suddenly roared. Following which, a terrifying dark aura surged from the abyss and turned into an endless force that blasted towards everyone. At this moment, everyone felt the space around them tighten. Following which, an oppressive force came from all directions, enveloping everyone. Boom! Nyetian sensed that something was wrong and immediately stabbed with his sword. The starlight sword pierced through the black aura in front of him. On the other side, Lian Jiufeng also used the power of the golden flame ancestral dragon to break through the layers of aura. However, Tang 13 and Gui Wuchan were not so lucky. They were directly enveloped by the dark aura. The endless aura swept them up and surged wildly. Seeing this, Nyetian's eyes narrowed. He immediately realized that the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon was going to turn Tang 13 and Gui Wuchan into demonic cocoon slaves. Damn it! Nyetian growled. Starlight shone around him and he swung his sword. Endless starlight sword shadows appeared and filled the air. They rushed towards the rolling black aura in front of him. Rumble! Terrifying noises could be heard continuously in the air, but the starlight sword shadow was gradually submerged in the black airwaves. Although the power of the stars could greatly suppress the nine-headed snakelet's evil energy, Nyetian's own strength was too weak. Boom! At this moment, a gigantic black palm appeared in the void. It was as if the world was collapsing as it pressed down on Nyetian. Seeing this, Nyetian's face darkened, but he was not afraid. His figure soared into the sky, and the starlight sword shadow emitted a blinding sword glow as he charged forward. Boom! Bang! In the space, there was a loud explosion, and the starlight sword shadow collapsed. Terrifying dark energy came crashing down, wanting to kill Nye Tian directly. Roar! At this critical moment, a terrifying dragon aura surged around Nye Tian's body. A giant golden dragon rolled out and roared at the sky. Nye Tian stepped on the crimson golden dragon and retreated thousands of meters away, finally avoiding the fatal blow. When he stabilized himself and looked around, he discovered that Lian Jiufeng was the only one left beside him. Everyone else had been engulfed by the terrifying black energy. Even Rui Qianyu and the others outside the abyss were no exception. Rui Qianyu, Nye Tian abruptly reacted. He looked at a black cocoon and sensed Rui Qianyu's aura. He couldn't help but exclaim. He sensed that Rui Qianyu's aura was weakening, and her consciousness was being devoured. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before she became the demon cocoon's slave. A bunch of ants, this is the price you have to pay for provoking me. At this time, the demon cocoon's figure appeared and stared at Nye Tian with its dark eyes. It roared angrily, "I want you to watch your friends die in front of you." Nye Tian stared deeply at the nine-headed fierce demon cocoon. His eyes became bloodshot, and his body trembled uncontrollably. At this time, the demon cocoon was even more arrogant. It roared, "As long as I absorb the power of 2 rainbow pupils, I will be able to recover my strength. At that time, no one in the world will be my match." Nye Tian didn't know how strong the demon cocoon was at its peak, but it was clearly not at its peak right now. So this was the best time for them to kill it. When he thought of this, Nye Tian no longer hesitated. The wings on his back flapped madly, and starlight heavenly slash danced in the air. A blinding sword beam poured down. It was incomparably sharp and slashed at the demon cocoon. "Ant, you want to kill me with this kind of strength? How laughable!" The demon cocoon looked coldly at Nye Tian and laughed arrogantly. It waved its hand and a black claw appeared. It grabbed the sword shadow in the air and suddenly exerted force. The sword shadow collapsed. Nye Tian's body shook, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned slightly pale. The demon cocoon was too strong, and the demon cocoon's evil energy in the abyss was providing it with endless power. It was too terrifying. Boom! Lian Jiufeng moved and also attacked at this moment. A sea of fire appeared in the air, spreading through the air. However, it was devoured by the wave of darkness before it could even approach the demon cocoon. The power of stars suppressed the power of darkness, so Lian Jiufeng's attack was far less threatening than Nye Tian's. Bang! There was a muffled sound, and Lian Jiufeng was sent flying. His body was covered in blood. "One of you has the demon god embryo, and the other has the meridian of 3 lives. Both of you have peerless talent, but you are too weak right now. You can only become my sacrificial pawns." The demon cocoon smiled coldly, and the power of darkness surged around it. It was extremely terrifying. Nye Tian and Lian Jiufeng looked at each other. Their expressions were not good. The demon cocoon's power had exceeded their expectations. "Nye Tian, you must find Duan Tianhen if you want to defeat the Heart of Darkness." At this time, Fat Cat's voice sounded. She said urgently, "The celestial wind lightning seal has an absolute suppression on the Heart of Darkness. You only have a chance of winning if you find Duan Tianhen." Duan Tianhen. Nye Tian was stunned, and then he looked down at the abyss below. Duan Tianhen had been dragged into the abyss. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Duan Tianhen has the 5th seal in his body. The Heart of Darkness won't kill him. Fat Cat's voice sounded again. She was very nervous. "Lian Jiufeng, hold him off. I'll go down and find him." Nye Tian looked at Lian Jiufeng, and without hesitation, he flapped his wings and charged into the abyss. Lian Jiufeng was stunned, but he immediately realized that Nye Tian was going to find Duan Tianhen. "You want to find the 5th seal?" The demon cocoon also reacted and sneered. Then, he flipped his hand, and a huge wave of air actually surged out of the abyss. It charged toward Nie Tian like a giant snake. Lai Yin Jiufeng frowned slightly, and the golden flame ancestral dragon under his feet rolled out. He used his body to block the black wave of air and buy time for Nie Tian. Nie Tian's figure was extremely agile, and he disappeared into the abyss in an instant. Damn it! The demon cocoon's black eyes narrowed slightly when he saw this. He couldn't help but curse. However, he did not go find Nie Tian. Instead, he looked at the cocoon in the air. Rui Qianyu and the others were trapped in the cocoon. Chapter 1762. The Jiuying demon cocoon stared at one of the cocoons with burning eyes. He wanted to absorb Gao Yuhan's blood-devouring power to increase his own strength. As long as he became stronger, he would not fear the ultimate wind-lightning seal. Lai Yin Jiufeng sensed the Jiuying demon cocoon's intentions, but his eyes flashed. He seemed to be thinking about something and had no intentions of acting. The Jiuying demon cocoon moved, and a black whirlpool appeared in his palm. It surged outside the cocoon and started to absorb Gao Yuhan's blood-devouring power. The cocoon continued to spin, and the blood-devouring power turned into threads of blood that entered the Jiuying demon cocoon. The dark aura around the Jiuying demon cocoon grew thicker and filled the entire abyss. Lai Yin Jiufeng watched from the side. He did not panic. Instead, he looked expectant. He seemed to want the Jiuying demon cocoon to grow stronger. At the same time, at the bottom of the abyss, Nie Tian landed and activated the holographic divine glyph. He sensed the surroundings and searched for Duan Tianhen. The dark aura of the Jiuying demon cocoon was very heavy, and it greatly interfered with Nie Tian's senses. Nie Tian moved continuously. The faster he found Duan Tianhen, the better. However, he was not sure if Duan Tianhen was still alive. Nie Tian. At this time, Nie Tian suddenly heard a voice. He frowned and confirmed the source of the voice. He immediately flashed over. Duan Tianhen. Nie Tian walked to the side of a huge stone pillar and saw a cocoon. The voice had come from the cocoon. It's me. A weak voice sounded from the cocoon. It was Duan Tianhen's voice. As expected, the Jiuying demon cocoon did not kill Duan Tianhen. It only trapped him inside. Duan Tianhen had the ultimate wind-lightning seal in his body. Even though he was trapped inside the cocoon, his consciousness could still maintain a certain degree of clarity. Nie Tian did not hesitate. Starlight Heavenly Slash surged with astral soul flames and carefully cut open the cocoon. A moment later, Duan Tianhen's figure walked out of the cocoon. Duan Tianhen, are you alright? Nie Tian stepped forward and supported Duan Tianhen. The latter's aura was relatively stable. It seemed he was not heavily injured. I'm fine, Duan Tianhen growled, his eyes blazing with killing intent. Let's go up. Nie Tian didn't explain much. After saying that, his figure directly flew up into the sky. The two of them soon arrived above the abyss and stood in midair. Humph! At this moment, the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon looked at Nie Tian and laughed coldly. You still managed to save this fool. This idiot was none other than Duan Tianhen. Damn it! Duan Tianhen roared angrily. He actually wanted to attack again, but he was held back by Nie Tian. Nie Tian knew that Duan Tianhen was impulsive and easily angered, so he kept an eye on him. Duan Tianhen was the key to defeating the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon. Nothing could happen to him. Humph! The nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon laughed coldly again. Its dark eyes narrowed slightly. You want to use this fool's wind thunder celestial seal to defeat me? What a joke. As soon as it finished speaking, the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon moved and struck out with its palm. A horrifying black palm shadow blasted out and pressed down on Duan Tianhen. Boom! Nie Tian reacted extremely quickly. The power of stars surged around him. He stabbed out with his sword and flapped his wings at the same time, pulling Duan Tianhen with him as he retreated rapidly. Bang! The next moment, A dull sound rang out. The sword shadow shattered, and Nye Tian and Duan Tianhen flew backward. The air was covered in blood. After absorbing Gao Yuhan's devour of blood, the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon's strength had increased significantly. With one palm, it severely injured Nye Tian and Duan Tianhen. Pfft! Nye Tian steadied himself and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he didn't care. He turned to Duan Tianhen and asked, "Are you all right?" I'm fine." Duan Tianhen's face was filled with shock. He clearly hadn't recovered from the shock. He had no idea who this black figure that had suddenly appeared in front of him was. "Fat, what do we do now?" Nye Tian became cold and asked solemnly. Although Duan Tianhen had been rescued, it was impossible for him to fight against the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon with his current strength. "Nye Tian, save the others from the cocoon first." Fat Cat's voice rang out calmly. Her blue eyes twinkled. "All right." Nye Tian nodded solemnly. Then, he looked at Lian Jiufeng and shouted, "Lian Jiufeng, you block the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon. I'll go save the others." Lian Jiufeng didn't answer. He only nodded and moved in front of the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon. Nye Tian didn't look at him. He brought Duan Tianhen to the cocoon in the air. And Duan Tianhen couldn't help but exclaim when he sensed Gao Yuhan's aura. Then, he slammed his palm and used the ultimate wind lightning seal to break the cocoon. "Tianhen!" Gao Yuhan appeared. She was extremely weak. She shouted excitedly when she saw Duan Tianhen. Without the slightest hesitation, Nye Tian bellowed, "Save the others." In the blink of an eye, he and Duan Tianhen had broken the other cocoons. These cocoons were formed from the evil energy of the nine-headed neonate. Only the ultimate wind lightning seal and the power of stars could break them. Nye Tian. Rui Qinyu woke up. Her eyes trembled with joy when she saw Nye Tian. Bang! However, on the other side, the golden flame ancestral dragon was slammed into the abyss by the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon. Lian Jiufeng's body shook and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was as white as paper. Nye Tian's expression darkened when he saw this. The nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon was too terrifying. Even Lian Jiufeng's golden flame ancestral dragon couldn't resist it. "Fat!" Nye Tian became cold and shouted. He knew that Fat Cat definitely had a plan for him to save the others. Little Fat Cat's silhouette directly appeared, its gaze sweeping across everyone as the glass chi around it surged unceasingly. After which, its two fat paws swept through the air, causing a wave of glass chi to spread out in the air. Nye Tian's brows furrowed slightly. He suddenly realized that the little Fat Cat had already grown a fourth tail. Nye Tian didn't know what Fat Cat was going to do. He tensed up and didn't dare to speak. "Nine-tailed chinchilla?" At this moment, the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon saw Fat Cat. His expression changed, and he exclaimed. He didn't think that Nye Tian would have a nine-tailed chinchilla with him. "A mere nine-tailed chinchilla clone wants to fight me?" The nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon laughed arrogantly. If it was the nine-tailed chinchilla's main body, he might have been afraid. He didn't care about a clone with only 4 tails. Fat Cat ignored the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon. At this moment, her eyes trembled slightly, and she released a tremendous amount of mental energy. In the blink of an eye, everyone's spiritual consciousness saw an array formation condensed from colored glaze chi. Every formation diagram had a flashing dot of light that corresponded to a different location in the abyss. Everyone, listen up. Stand at the dot of light on the formation diagram. No matter what happens, don't leave that spot. Fat Cat said solemnly. Her expression was unprecedentedly serious. What a terrifying formation! Lan Yiru's eyes flickered as she sensed the formation diagram in her consciousness, and she exclaimed, "Little girl, this is the 9 turns heaven and earth formation. Whether we can succeed or not depends on you." Fat Cat stared at Lan Yiru and said seriously. Chapter 1763. Yes. The success of the 9 transformations Heaven-Earth formation depends on you. Fat Cat looked at Lan Yiru and nodded heavily. The 9 transformations Heaven-Earth formation was a rank 9 god formation. Fat Cat couldn't set it up with his current strength. He could only set it up with Lan Yiru's help. Little girl, don't worry. This Lord will send you a detailed and complete diagram of the formation. You just have to follow it step by step, and you'll definitely succeed. Little Fat Cat was afraid of scaring Lan Yiru and said casually. Amen. Lan Yiru nodded heavily. It was rare to have a chance to understand a rank 9 god formation in detail. Everyone, stand in your positions. Fat Cat roared. Everyone moved and spread out in all directions, taking up different positions in the sky above the abyss. Little Fat Cat stood by Lan Yiru's side, at the core of the formation. There were 8 core positions in the 9 transformations Heaven-Earth formation. They were occupied by Lan Yiru and the others. Nie Tian and Lien Jiufeng were in a free position. They were responsible for protecting the others and absorbing the formation's power. Nie Tian and Lien Jiufeng were allowed to absorb the formation's power not because they were the strongest, but because their martial bodies were the strongest. The stronger the martial body, the more power they could absorb and endure. You want to set up the formation? The 9-headed snakelet sneered disdainfully. He didn't care about Fat Cat's 9 transformations Heaven-Earth formation at all. In his opinion, these people in front of him were merely a bunch of ants that posed no threat to him. Continue to be arrogant. When the 9 transformations Heaven-Earth formation activates, it will be the time for you to cry. Fat Cat looked at the 9-headed snakelet and smiled darkly. I'll start with you for the 5th seal. The 9-headed snakelet roared and moved. Endless evil energy of the 9-headed snakelet surged out of his palm and attacked Duan Tianhen. Out of everyone present, the one he feared the most was still Duan Tianhen, who possessed the Wind-Thunder Celestial Seal. As long as he killed Duan Tianhen, the 9 revolutions Heaven and Earth formation would pose no threat to him. Duan Tianhen stood in midair, unmoving. He remembered Fat Cat's words. No matter what happened, he couldn't leave his position. It was at this moment Nie Tian and Lien Jiufeng exchanged a glance and attacked at the same time. This was a matter of life and death. They couldn't let anything happen to Duan Tianhen. The 2 of them attacked at the same time. One of them attacked the 9-headed snakelet demon cocoon, while the other blocked its attack. Rumble! A loud sound reverberated in the air. Nie Tian struck out with his sword and blocked the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon's killing palm. Damn it! The powerful palm strike was blocked by Nie Tian. The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon roared, and its abyss-like pupils locked onto Nie Tian with a heavy murderous intent. Die! The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon's body roiled with evil energy. Its terrifying palm strike was unleashed in the air, and an enormous, boundless pressure enveloped Nie Tian. Nie Tian felt a terrifying pressure that made him feel like he was suffocating. Blood devours the heavens! At this critical moment, Nie Tian let out a low roar. Blood energy and sword intent surged around his body, and he thrust his sword at the terrifying palm strike. Rumble! There was a loud sound. The terrifying palm strike crushed the sword shadow, and Nie Tian's figure was thrown into the abyss. Nie Tian, Rui Qianyu, Tang 13, and the others couldn't help but cry out when they saw this. Don't move! Fat Cat's voice rang out at the same time. He believed that Nie Tian's martial body would definitely be able to withstand that palm strike. I'm fine. In the next moment, a figure flew out of the abyss and hovered in the air. It was Nie Tian. He was rather injured from the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon's palm strike, but it was not life-threatening. The God-fiend Origin Embryo and the Origin Star Stone. Your martial body really is powerful. The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon stared at Nie Tian cold. The toughness of the latter's martial body had exceeded his expectations. He did not know that Nye Tian's martial body also possessed the sovereign flames, the sovereign dragon's vein, the tear of the princess, and the three great forbidden techniques aside from the godfiend origin embryo and the origin star stone. These terrifying trump cards allowed Nye Tian to possess a martial body that could fend off overgods even though he was only an early overgod. Lien Jiufeng glanced at Nye Tian and could not help but frown. If the palm strike had landed on him earlier, he would not have died, but he would definitely have been heavily injured. If that was the case, Lien Jiufeng's martial body was not as powerful as Nye Tian's. Everyone, listen up. Begin unleashing your power. Fat Cat's voice rang out at this moment. In the air, endless glass chi surged as flame-like power continuously surged out of Lan Yiru's fingers, turning into formation runes that surged in the air. In the blink of an eye, the great formation of 9 revolutions heaven and earth had already begun to take shape. The outline of the formation had already appeared. The others began to circulate their yuan meridians and godheads, releasing endless power into the formation. In an instant, the great formation of 9 revolutions heaven and earth became clear. The power of the formation surged and weakened the evil energy of the 9-headed snakelet. The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon exclaimed in surprise. He clearly did not think that a mere 9-tailed chinchilla's clone would have such a great formation set up in an instant. He could feel that the great formation of 9 revolutions heaven and earth was growing stronger. He could not help but panic. Godfiend nascent embryo, I'll kill you first. The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon growled. Killing intent surged out of his body and instantly enveloped Nye Tian. If he did not kill Nye Tian and Lien Jiufeng, he would not be able to harm the others in the formation. Boom! The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon's aura suddenly grew stronger. His entire body expanded by several times, and his dark figure became a 10-meter-tall giant. Then, the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon slammed down with his palm. A huge palm shadow almost solidified, and the entire space shook violently as if it was about to collapse. The power of this palm strike was several times stronger than the previous one. Even though Nye Tian's martial body was strong, he could not withstand it. If this palm strike landed, Nye Tian would definitely die. Great formation of 9 revolutions heaven and earth, activate. At this moment, Fat Cat's voice rang out. Then, the entire formation was activated. Countless runes of the formation condensed into a golden light and instantly entered Nye Tian's body. Nye Tian felt a terrifying power suddenly appear in his body. It attacked his martial body and caused his aura to soar. Starfall devours the sky. In an instant, Nye Tian reacted. He growled and stabbed out with Starfall Heaven Slash. Then, a golden sword light whistled out, and the dazzling sword light shot out 10,000 meters. This sword not only contained the terrifying power of the stars, but it also absorbed the power of the great formation of 9 revolutions heaven and earth. This power of the formation contained the power of the wind, thunder celestial seal. Boom! In the next moment there was a huge explosion in the air. Wherever the sword shadow passed, the huge black palm was directly pierced. The sharp sword shadow was like a dragon breaking out of the abyss, and it attacked the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon. Ah! The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon cried out in shock. Then, the evil energy of the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon condensed into a shield. Bang! The sword shadow bombarded the evil energy shield, and a muffled sound was heard. The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon was directly sent flying, leaving a black trail in the air. Chapter 1764. Nye Tian's sword fell and cut off one of the 9-headed snakelet demon cocoon's arms. How is this possible? The 9-headed snakelet demon cocoon exclaimed in shock. His voice was filled with unconcealable panic. He did not expect Nye Tian's sword to be so terrifying. Nie Tian was also stunned. His eyes shone with a fiery light. He was overjoyed. Even he himself did not expect that the sword just now would explode with such terrifying power. Previously, he had been suppressed by the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon. He was not even in danger of being killed instantly. He did not expect his sword to be able to heavily injure the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon after absorbing the power of the nine transformations heaven and earth formation. It had to be said that Fat Cat's nine transformations heaven and earth formation was indeed powerful. The nine transformations heaven and earth formation absorbed power from the people in the formation and amplified it. It was enough to increase the power by tens or even hundreds of times. What Nie Tian had absorbed just now was the power of the formation. Lien Jiufeng gasped when he saw this. He did not expect the formation that Fat Cat had casually set up to be so strange. Nie Tian's lips curled into a smile. He rushed into the sky and stood in front of the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon, facing it head-on. The nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon calmed down instantly and smiled evilly. Then, a terrifying evil power surged out of his body. His severed arm grew back instantly. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. He was quite surprised. So what if you have the support of the formation? An ant will always be an ant. How can you be a match for me? The nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon laughed wildly. His 10-meter-tall body doubled in size again. He became a dark giant, and the power of darkness in his body became even more violent. Then, the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon raised his hand and slammed it down on Nie Tian fiercely. Nie Tian felt the space around him tighten. Then, a terrifying aura pressed down on him. At the same time, the nine revolutions heaven and earth formation was activated. Another golden light appeared and surged into Nie Tian's body, causing his aura to soar. Nie Tian stabbed out with his sword, and a surging sword will surged out. A golden sword shadow appeared in the air, and it was thousands of meters long. It was like a giant golden dragon that crazily rushed over. At the same time, Lien Jiufeng attacked as well. A ball of golden flames appeared in the air, drawing a line of fire in the air. It instantly spread into a sea of fire, and the boundless power of the golden flames pressed down on the demonic cocoon like thousands of snakes. The blazing nine blades had also been reinforced by the power of the formation. Combined with the power of his golden flames, its power was extremely terrifying. Boom! In the void, there were endless sounds of explosions, and the space shook. The entire abyss seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. The nine revolutions Qian Kuan Grand Formation also trembled and was on the verge of collapse. The nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon was forced to retreat continuously. Both of its arms had been cut off at the same time. Endless sword will and flames surged towards it from all directions, causing it to feel an immense pressure. Damn it! The nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon let out a strange cry, and the evil energy of the nine-headed snakelet surged wildly. It finally managed to block the attack. Why is the power of this formation so great? This is impossible. The nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon's empty eyes contracted continuously. It was obvious that it was extremely shocked. It had never thought that the formation in front of it would be so terrifying. Humph. Fat Cat looked at the panicking nine-headed snakelet demonic cocoon and sneered. It said proudly, I already said that when the formation activates, you can wait to cry. The nine revolutions Qian Kuan Grand Formation was a rank 9 god formation in the first place. It contained terrifying power, and Fat Cat had placed Duan Tianhen at the core of the formation. The formation continuously absorbed the wind-lightning celestial seal, causing its sealing power to skyrocket. Then, it was released through Nie Tian and Lien Jiufeng. Its power was unimaginable. Lan Yu's attainments in formations were still a little weak, and she wasn't very strong either. She just barely managed to activate the 9 revolutions Qian Kuan Grand Formation. she was far from being able to unleash the formation's full power. If the 9 revolutions Qian Kuan Grand Formation was in its complete state, Nie Tian could borrow the formation's power and kill the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon with a single slash. Nie Tian calmed himself down and glanced around. He discovered that Duan Tianhen and the others were wreathed in raging magical symbols, which seemed to be absorbing their power at an alarming rate. He immediately understood that the 9 revolutions Qian Kuan Grand Formation was absorbing everyone's power, and then gathering it on one person or a few people after it was strengthened by the formation. Nie Tian saw that Duan Tianhen and the others were in great pain, and their auras were continuously weakening. Nie Tian, hurry up and do it. Fat Cat looked at Nie Tian and said loudly. Duan Tianhen and the others' power was limited. The 9 revolutions Qian Kuan Grand Formation wouldn't last for long, so Nie Tian and Lai Yin Jiufeng had to finish off the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon as soon as possible. All right. Nie Tian nodded heavily and took a step forward. He shot into the sky, and an even greater power of the formation appeared and surged into his body. The power was so terrifying that Nie Tian felt like his body was about to explode. Of everyone present, Nie Tian was probably the only one who could endure such a terrifying power. Lai Yin Jiufeng and Gao Yuhan might not be able to die. Nie Tian was surrounded by swords in the sky, and he looked like a god of swords descending to the mortal world. The starlight heavenly slash glowed brightly, and the light of the sword shot 10,000 meters away. He slashed downwards, and an image of a sword several thousand meters long appeared in the sky. It was like a waterfall of light, and it fell towards the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon. Kill! At the same time, Lai Yin Jiufeng also attacked. The power he absorbed wasn't as much as Nie Tian's, but it still increased his power by a lot. He punched downwards, and a fiery fist appeared in the sky. It was as if the world was about to be set on fire. No! In an instant, the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon felt the real killing intent. It couldn't help but cry out and retreat, but it was too late. His eyes widened abruptly, revealing extreme fear. The powerful attack from Nie Tian and Lai Yin Jiufeng was far too terrifying. It had far exceeded the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon's expectations. Boom! Boom! The sword and fist landed at almost the same time. The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon couldn't resist at all, and its huge body was drowned in the sword and flames. The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon was a monster formed from the origin energy of darkness. It had just awakened, and it was killed by Nie Tian and the others. Such an ending made people sigh. Boom! In the next moment, the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon's body suddenly exploded, and the pungent smell of blood spread out, filling the entire abyss. The 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon had absorbed the blood energy of countless genius martial practitioners over the past hundreds of thousands of years. Now that it was released, the world was covered in a thick layer of blood, and the air was filled with the smell of blood. Everyone looked at the scene in the sky with trembling eyes, as if they couldn't believe that the 9-headed snakelet demonic cocoon had died just like that. The blood curtain in the air slowly dissipated after a long time. A black ball of light appeared in midair. It wasn't big, only the size of a fist. However, when one looked at it, it gave off a feeling that it was bottomless. Chapter 1765. The origin power of darkness was called the Abyss of Darkness. It was divided into 3 parts: the Heart of Darkness, the Hand of Darkness, and the Soul of Darkness. The Jiuying demonic cocoon was the manifestation of the Heart of Darkness. Nie Tian stared at the Heart of Darkness. His eyes trembled, and they shone with unconcealable heat. The Heart of Darkness was the origin power. The power it contained was unimaginable. Luo Xian, do it? It was at this moment Lai Yin Jiufeng suddenly let out a low growl. Then, he moved and threw a palm strike at Nie Tian. Lai Yin Jiufeng had entered the forbidden land of 9 infants for the Heart of Darkness. Nie Tian was stunned. He hadn't expected Lai Yin Jiufeng to turn hostile so quickly and attack him. Boom! A terrifying flame palm appeared in the air. It was like an endless sea of fire that pressed down on Nie Tian. Nie Tian stepped forward and stabbed with his sword. He flapped his wings and charged toward the heart of darkness. He was very fast. He was only 100 meters away from the heart of darkness in an instant. Unfortunately, there was a figure faster than him. Luo Xian had been inside the 9 cycles universe formation. She stepped forward and charged over. Right at the instant her figure left, the 9-turn universe formation that was on the verge of collapse was finally unable to be maintained any longer, and it rumbled as it shattered and dispersed in space. Luo Xian moved nimbly, leaving behind several afterimages in the air. She arrived next to the heart of darkness in an instant. She looked at the black ball of light in front of her and hesitated. Then, she reached out to grab the heart of darkness. However, the black ball shook slightly and shot out a ray of black light. Luo Xian reacted very quickly. She moved slightly to the side, but she was still a bit too slow. A shocking wound appeared on her beautiful face. Ah, my face! Luo Xian let out a blood-curdling screech, and her figure retreated madly with an expression of extreme horror. The power inside the heart of darkness was the origin power of darkness. Wounds caused by this power could not be healed. Luo Xian's beauty was ruined. The heart of darkness was not something that just anyone could control. Trash! Lai Yin Jiufeng roared when he saw Luo Xian fail. He moved, and a giant figure charged out of the abyss. It was the Golden Flame Ancestral Dragon. Lai Yin Jiufeng stepped forward and prepared to take action himself. Nie Tian arrived next to the heart of darkness, but he didn't attack it directly. Luo Xian had been injured by the heart of darkness earlier. He didn't want a repeat. At that moment, the fat little cat returned to Nie Tian's nascent embryo space and said, Nie Tian, use the Hellfire Crucible. Nie Tian went blank for a moment before recalling that there was a Hellfire Crucible in the 3rd heaven of the Starry River. The Hellfire Crucible was formed from the power of the stars, and was perfect for storing the heart of darkness. It was the furnace of flame. It was the heart of darkness. It was the of the stars. The heart was the realm heart of the stars. It was flame. With a flip of his palm, the Hellfire Crucible flew over and sucked the heart of darkness into it. Then, the Hellfire Crucible flew back into his domain. Damn it! When Lai Yin Jiufeng saw that Nie Tian had taken away the heart of darkness, he let out a growl and charged toward Nie Tian. Lai Yin Jiufeng's aura was extremely powerful, but Nie Tian showed no fear at all. Forbidden runes surged around his body as he stabbed out with his sword. Violent sword shadows whistled out. Nie Tian was the same as Lai Yin Jiufeng, an early overgod, so he did not fear Lai Yin Jiufeng at all. Boom! Nie Tian and Lai Yin Jiufeng clashed head-on, causing an explosion in the air. Both of them were pushed back at the same time. Nie Tian steadied himself. He could faintly feel that the aura around him was gradually weakening. He had activated the 3 forbidden techniques for too long, and the forbidden technique runes could no longer support them. Nie Tian, hand over the heart of darkness, Lai Yin Jiufeng said coldly as he stared at Nie Tian from midair. Is that possible? Nie Tianling sneered. His lips curled into a cold smile. He had already obtained the heart of darkness. How could he just hand it over to Lai Yin Jiufeng? Of course it's possible. Lai Yin Jiufeng sneered. He then looked at Tang 13 and growled, unless you want him to die. Lai Yin Jiufeng formed a seal with his hands as he said the word. Ah! Tang 13 screamed as if she sensed something. Power of darkness surged out of her eyes. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. The seal of 3 lives that Lai Yin Jiufeng had left in Tang 13's eyes was indeed strange. Nie Tian, if you want him to live, hand over the heart of darkness immediately. Lai Yin Jiufeng growled. His face twisted viciously. Tang 13 endured great pain. The seal of 3 lives exploded with terrifying power. It battered against his body and almost tore him apart. Everyone else was stunned by this scene. They had no idea what was going on. Nye Tian, hand over the heart of darkness! Lien Jiufeng roared angrily when he saw Nye Tian still hesitating. His eyes were filled with violence. However, at this moment, Tang 13 suddenly calmed down. His eyes stopped emitting spiritual energy and his entire being became sober. Phew! At the same time, Fat Cat let out a long sigh and chuckled. Luckily, I was prepared and did something to the seal of 3 lives. Just now, Fat Cat had activated the glazed glyph he had hidden inside the seal of 3 lives. It had broken Lien Jiufeng's seal of 3 lives with a seal. Lien Jiufeng was stunned. He didn't know what was going on. He exclaimed in surprise. Tang 13, are you alright? Nye Tian smiled faintly and turned around to look at Tang 13. The reason he hadn't reacted until now was because he was waiting for Fat Cat to act. As expected, Fat Cat hadn't disappointed him. He had broken through the seal of 3 lives. I'm fine. Tang 13 was surprised at first, but then her eyes returned to normal. She replied in joy. Impossible! Lien Jiufeng's pupils abruptly contracted. He stared at Tang 13 in shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. How could the seal of 3 lives be broken? Nothing is impossible. The seal of the ancient Ming race isn't anything special. Little Fat Cat's figure disappeared in a flash, but its mocking voice resounded through the air. It's that cat! Lien Jiufeng's expression froze for a moment. Then he realized that Fat Cat had secretly done something to the seal of 3 lives. Damn it! Lien Jiufeng roared in fury when he realized what had happened. His body trembled. Without the seal of 3 lives, he had lost his greatest trump card. It was impossible to make Nye Tian hand over the heart of darkness. Watch out! At this moment, Nye Tian suddenly sensed a figure flash by and couldn't help but cry out in alarm. But it was too late. Luo Zian was so fast that she left behind several afterimages in the air. Qian Yun purple mist had attacked. Her sword intent had condensed into a sword and attacked Rui Qianyu. Chapter 1766. Go to hell! In the void, Luo Zian's vicious voice rang out. In the air, a deadly sword shadow blasted towards Rui Qianyu. Rui Qianyu was slightly stunned. She wanted to defend herself, but it was too late. In the next moment, almost subconsciously, Rui Qianyu's eyes trembled slightly. Then, a green pupil power surged out and condensed into a green shield around her body. Bang! Then, the deadly sword shadow fell, and a muffled sound was heard in the air. The green shield shook slightly and collapsed. Rui Qianyu's figure flew out and hit the cliff of the mountain. Qianye! The sudden scene made Nye Tian roar. His blood flowed in reverse, and he turned into a raging beast. His figure moved, and he rushed towards the cliff of the mountain. Before he arrived, the cliff suddenly moved, and a figure flew out from it. It was Rui Qianyu. Qianye, are you okay? Nye Tian's eyes trembled when he saw Rui Qianyu's figure. He was extremely emotional. I'm fine. Rui Qianyu nodded slightly. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth, but she could not hide the smile on her face. Seeing that Nye Tian was so worried about her, she felt warm in her heart. Huh? Not dead? Luo Zian saw that Rui Qianyu was not dead, and she could not help but be shocked. Obviously, she did not expect Rui Qianyu to be so strong. She suddenly attacked, and the opponent was actually able to block it when he was defenseless. Luo Zian's sword attack was indeed unexpected. However, although her speed was extremely fast, the power was slightly weaker. After all, Rui Qianyu was a martial artist with 9 colored pupils. The defense of the green pupil myriad wood sky was far beyond Luo Zian's expectations. Even if it was used in a hurry, it still blocked most of the power in her sword. Why do you want to kill me? Rui Qianyu's beautiful eyes flickered as she asked Luo Zian. She didn't know Luoxian at all. She didn't even know Luoxian's name. Of course, she didn't know what happened between the latter and Nye Tian. Therefore, Rui Qianyu had no idea why Luoxian suddenly wanted to kill her. Because you are Nye Tian's woman, because you are prettier than me. Luoxian's gaze was somber and murderous. Her eyes were extremely vicious, and she seemed to be very angry. The black scars on her face kept trembling. The scar on her face was left behind by the heart of darkness. It was impossible to heal and would forever remain on her face. Her appearance, which was what she was most proud of, was now ruined. And this was the biggest reason why she suddenly wanted to kill Rui Qianyu. Nye Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't think that Luoxian would be so vicious in addition to her coldness. There was no longer any relationship between her and Nye Tian. In fact, Nye Tian didn't even want to kill her. But Luoxian wasn't willing to give up. She even wanted to kill the people around Nye Tian. In reality, Luoxian had been regretting ever since she lost to Nye Tian in the grand competition of the 12 sacred palaces. But she refused to admit it. In fact, she even turned her regret into anger. She believed that everything was Nye Tian's fault, that Nye Tian was the one who caused her to lose her position as the leader of the lesser god rankings. When she saw the girls around Nye Tian, Mo Rushi, Cher, and Rui Qianyu, every single one of them was prettier and more outstanding than she was. The anger in her heart grew even stronger. In the end, it turned into killing intent. It was this almost perverted mentality that had led Luoxian to this point. In order to deal with Nye Tian, she didn't even hesitate to cooperate with Lai Yanjiufeng. Actually, with Luoxian's talent, if she didn't cross paths with Nye Tian, she might very well reach the peak of the god realm. Unfortunately, she and Nye Tian were mortal enemies. Since the two of them had met again, there was no way they could peacefully coexist. You want to kill me just because of this? Rui Qianyu's eyes flashed as she looked at Luoxian in confusion. She could feel a bone-chilling, killing intent from the latter. Luoxian's coldness and Rui Qianyu's coldness were two completely different things. The former's heart was cold, while the latter's emotions were cold. I want to kill you. Why do you stay by Nye Tian's side? What's so good about him? Luoxian looked like she had gone mad. Her hair was flying wildly, and the scar on her face looked even more hideous. Because I like him. Suddenly, Rui Qianyu raised her head. Her eyes flashed with light, and she appeared even more determined. She said heavily, "You can't see what's good about him, but that doesn't mean he's bad. It only means that you have eyes but can't see." Everyone was stunned when they heard Rui Qianyu's words. Their eyes couldn't help but tremble. They never thought that Rui Qianyu would say such a thing in front of everyone. Nye Tian was also stunned. His expression went blank for several seconds. It was hard to imagine that the cold and aloof Rui Qianyu would directly say that she liked Nye Tian in front of so many people. Many things had happened between Nye Tian and Rui Qianyu. The two of them had gone through many dangers together, and Nye Tian had saved Rui Qianyu's life many times. But at that time, Rui Qianyu only thought about revenge and did not think about anything else. Some time ago, when she was imprisoned by the Ghost King Palace Lord, the face of a person kept echoing in her mind, and that was Nye Tian. It was also at that time that Rui Qianyu finally confirmed her feelings for Nye Tian. So when Nye Tian appeared by her side again, she really wanted to say what was in her heart. But later, when Nye Tian told her about the things between him, Mo Rushi, and Cher, Rui Qianyu was not sure whether there was room for a third person in Nye Tian's heart. But now, Rui Qianyu no longer hid her feelings. She wanted to face herself and bravely say the love in her heart. Me? Have eyes but can't see? Luoxian was stunned when she heard Rui Qianyu's words. Her pupils abruptly shrank, and the cold light in her eyes dimmed. It was replaced by great disappointment and even despair. Back when they had been in the god domain in the heaven realm, she and Nye Tian had already taken the step to consummate their marriage. But in order to enter the realm, she had hardened her heart and killed Nie Tian. But now, not only had Nie Tian entered the realm with his own strength, he had easily crushed all the great geniuses in the realm. Up until now, no one Luo Zian had met was as talented as Nie Tian. Even Lai Yen Jiufeng was slightly inferior to him. Luo Zian had even thought about how strong Nie Tian would be if she hadn't killed Nie Tian back then, and what kind of achievements she would have achieved if she had stayed by Nie Tian's side. But all of these were just fantasies. She knew that what she had done to Nie Tian was unforgivable. The fact that she was looking at Nie Tian now only proved that she had been as blind as a bat back then. No! However, in the next moment, Luo Zian's expression suddenly changed. She let out a fierce roar, pointed her sword at Raindrop Thousand Leaves, and furiously said, "I'm not blind. I'm going to kill you. I want you to see that even if you stay by Nie Tian's side, he won't be able to protect you." Right now, Luo Zian was almost crazy. Chapter 1767. Luo Zian, how dare you attack again? Luo Zian attacked again. Nie Tian's eyes darkened and revealed a murderous intent. Luo Zian had already ambushed Rui Qinyu once. How could there be a second time? The corner of Nie Tian's mouth twitched coldly. He waved his sword and was about to attack. With his current strength, he only needed one strike to kill Luo Zian. Black Pupil Destroy. However, before Nie Tian could make a move, Raindrop Thousand Leaves' pupils suddenly changed, turning into a bizarre black color. Immediately afterwards, a bizarre black light shot out of her pupils like a black lightning bolt, whizzing through the air. At an unbelievable angle, at an unbelievable speed, it landed directly on Luo Zian's body. Wherever the black light passed, a head floated in the air amidst the bloody light. Luo Zian was decapitated by Rui Qianyu. Nie Tian was taken aback, and his eyes couldn't help but tremble. He clearly saw that Luo Zian's expression was stiff, and her eyes were filled with extreme anger and unwillingness. The corner of her mouth was still trembling, as if she wanted to say something, but she didn't have the chance to. The sudden turn of events caused everyone to be stunned, and the scene became deathly silent. No one would have thought that such a strong Luo Zian would be killed by Rui Qianyu in a second. Luo Zian's body floated in the air. She lost her vitality and began to fall to the bottom of the abyss. She never thought that she would die in the hands of Rui Qianyu. Moreover, she died so quickly. Luo Zian, the woman who had been entangled with Nie Tian for a long time, died in the end. Although she did not die in the hands of Nie Tian, she was killed by one of Nie Tian's closest people. Nie Tian looked at Luo Zian's body. He did not feel the pleasure of revenge. Instead, he was very calm and his mood was not affected. He had long been a stranger to Luo Zian. The latter's death was not a matter that mattered to him. However, there had to be an ending to everything, and the current ending was pretty good. Rui Qianyu's evaluation of Luo Zian was spot on. The latter was indeed as blind as a bat. She didn't realize that Nie Tian was the biggest opportunity in her life. Unfortunately, Luo Zian had personally destroyed the greatest fortuitous encounter in her life, and in the end, she suffered the fate of being decapitated. But in the end, it was still because Luo Zian was too black-hearted. Such a woman would definitely not have a good ending. Who? Nie Tian let out a long breath. Luo Zian's death could be considered to have undone a knot in his heart. Damn it! At this moment, an angry voice rang out. Then, a figure flew out and dashed towards the corpse in the air. Lai Yen Jiufeng. Nie Tian frowned in surprise. He had no idea what Lai Yen Jiufeng was planning. Lai Yen Jiufeng waved his hand and pulled out a white ball of light from the corpse. It was none other than the earth vein source. That fellow was truly shameless. To think that he would not even let go of the earth vein source within the corpse. You're courting death. Nie Tian's expression darkened. Then, he swung his sword and enveloped Lai Yen Jiufeng with a surging sword intent. But at this moment, the golden flame ancestral dragon appeared. With a sway of its body, its giant tail swept over and shattered the sword image in the air. Lien Jiufeng stepped forward and stomped on the golden flame ancestral dragon's giant body. Then, he glared hatefully at Nie Tian and said solemnly, "Nie Tian, we will meet again." After that, he stomped on the ground, and the golden flame ancestral dragon's giant body tumbled and flew into the sky. The golden flame ancestral dragon had suffered serious injuries when fighting the nine-headed snakelet demon cocoon, so there was no way Lien Jiufeng could defeat Nie Tian and the others even if he stayed. After all, Nie Tian alone was troublesome enough. There was also Gao Yuhan and the others. Nie Tian's eyes were gloomy. He did not chase after Lien Jiufeng. His strength was constantly decreasing. Even if he chased after Lien Jiufeng, he might not be able to stop him. In any case, the tear of the princess was with him. Lien Jiufeng would definitely appear again for the tear of the princess. At this moment, Nie Tian's aura instantly weakened. His strength had returned to early-stage high god. His face looked very pale. In truth, he was already completely exhausted. He was barely holding on with his last breath. "Nie Tian, are you all right?" Rui Qianyu hurriedly stepped forward and asked nervously when she saw Nie Tian's terrible complexion. "I'm fine," Nie Tian forced a smile. He then took out a few divine pills and swallowed them. His complexion looked a little better. Nie Tian then swept his gaze across the crowd. He was relieved to see that everyone was fine. However, after experiencing the 9 revolutions universe formation, everyone's complexion looked terrible. It was obvious that they had exhausted too much energy. The Jiuying demon cocoon was finally killed, and Lien Jiufeng had left. Everyone let out a long sigh of relief. Nie Tian looked at the abyss in front of him. After thinking for a moment, he had everyone leave the abyss. Boom! 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 In midair, Nie Tian fiercely slashed out several times. The enormous sword shadows cut through the mountain and fell into the abyss. The enormous abyss was instantly filled up. Luo Xian had died here. Nie Tian's act of filling up the abyss was the last bit of consolation for Luo Xian. From now on, he would never think about this person or this name again. Everything related to Luo Xian was over. Next, Nie Tian and the others left the 9 Infants Devil Valley and came to a spacious area outside the valley. Nie Tian, you must leave immediately. Nie Tian wanted to rest and recover his strength, but Gao Yuhan walked over and said with a gloomy expression, "Why?" Nie Tian frowned slightly. He couldn't help but be puzzled. "You destroyed the Jiuying demon cocoon. The people of 9 Infants Heaven will soon find out. If the experts of 9 Infants Heaven appear, it will be difficult for you to leave." Gao Yuhan was very anxious. Outside the 9 Infants mountain range, there is a teleportation formation at the place where you cultivated. It can send you back. Leave immediately. The 9 Infants demonic cocoon had been destroyed by Nie Tian and the others. Who knew how the people of 9 Infants Heaven would react if they found out? They probably wouldn't even dream that Nie Tian and the others could not only enter the 9 Infants forbidden ground, but also destroy the 9 Infants demonic cocoon. "Aunt, what about you?" Duan Tianhen asked after a moment of surprise. "I'm fine." Gao Yuhan was slightly taken aback. "I am an elder of 9 Infants Heaven. The people of 9 Infants Heaven won't do anything to me." "Is that so?" However, before Gao Yuhan could finish her sentence, a deep and powerful voice rang out. It reverberated in the air like thunder from the 9 heavens. It was extremely mighty. Everyone was taken aback. They raised their heads to look at the sky, but they did not see anyone. The next moment the void shook slightly. A black-robed figure tore through the void and appeared in front of everyone. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed. He looked at the black-robed figure in the air. He felt as though he was looking at a towering mountain. The overwhelming power made him feel like he was suffocating. "Lord Celestial Master." Gao Yuhan looked at the figure in the air. Her voice trembled as she shouted a name. Chapter 1768. Gao Yuhan said with a trembling voice. Her eyes flickered with panic and fear. Heavenly Venerate Zhuiying was a frighteningly powerful person. Nie Tian looked at Zhuiying Fenghua and sensed the latter's aura. It was as deep as the sea, unfathomable and unreachable. He had only seen such an aura from a few people, and those people were the pinnacle experts of the 9 realms, the 9 gods' calamity, the Wind and Cloud Alliance Master, and others. Without a doubt, Zhuiying Fenghua was a pinnacle paramount god expert. Nie Tian guessed that Zhuiying Fenghua's strength might not be on par with the 9 gods' calamity and the Wind and Cloud Alliance Master, but he was definitely an expert on the same level as the Holy Assembly's Vice Chief Nangong Dushu or the inescapable Net's Earth Chief. Judging from Zhuiying Fenghua's strength, the forbidden land of martialism was comparable to the 9 realms. Elder Gao, are you afraid to see me appear? Zhuiying Fenghua's figure lowered slightly, and a terrifying aura descended. It felt like the ground couldn't withstand the aura and sank a lot. Nie Tian and the others were almost suffocated by the aura, and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. Zhuiying Fenghua was a pinnacle paramount god expert, while Gao Yuhan was a late-stage paramount god expert. Although there was a small difference between them, it was more terrifying than an entire realm. Martial artists who could reach the pinnacle were all monstrous geniuses. One should know that even Gao Yuhan, who had opened the 8th pupil of her 9 color pupils, couldn't reach the pinnacle. The difference between late-stage and pinnacle paramount gods was more of a difference in talent. A martial artist's talent was more important in the later stages. Often, the slightest difference could determine 2 people's completely different achievements. Lord Heavenly Venerate, I don't dare. Gao Yuhan barely withstood Zhuiying Fenghua's aura. She lowered her head and didn't dare to look at him. Her voice trembled. She knew that the matter of the forbidden land of martialism had been exposed. Zhuiying Fenghua's sudden arrival must be related to the forbidden land of martialism. Gao Yuhan did not know what the Zhuiying demonic cocoon meant to the sky of Zhuiying, so she did not know how Heavenly Venerate Zhuiying would deal with Nie Tian and the others. If Heavenly Venerate Zhuiying decided to kill them, Nie Tian and the others would be at his mercy given their strength. Sir, what are you here for? At this moment, Nie Tian suddenly lifted his head and stared straight at Zhuiying and Fenghua without the slightest fear. Ever since the appearance of the Zhuiying Fenghua, although he appeared to be very domineering and angry, he did not show any killing intent. Therefore, Nie Tian concluded that the Zhuiying Fenghua was not here to kill. Zhuiying Fenghua looked at Nie Tian and was slightly taken aback. Clearly, he had not expected this silver-haired brat to dare to look him in the eye. He couldn't even remember how many years it had been since someone dared to speak to him like this. At this moment, being stared at by Nie Tian, Zhuiying Fenghua had a strange feeling. The heart of darkness is in your hands. It seems that you are the one who killed the 9-headed neonate demon cocoon. Zhuiying Fenghua laughed and spoke in a deep voice. His eyes flickered, and he actually revealed a hint of nervousness. So what if it was me? Nie Tian took a step forward and replied coldly, Sir, please state your purpose for coming here. Zhuiying Fenghua's eyes narrowed slightly as he secretly marveled at Nie Tian's calmness. To be able to remain so calm in the face of someone who was stronger than him, this kind of behavior could not be done without great determination. The strength of Nie Tian's state of mind exceeded Zhuiying Fenghua's expectations. Brat, you trespassed into the forbidden ground of the 9-headed neonate and killed the 9-headed neonate demon cocoon. You still dare to be so arrogant. You are really not simple. Zhuiying Fenghua sneered and asked, Do you know what the 9-headed neonate demon cocoon means to the 9-headed neonate heaven? I don't know. Nie Tianling replied coldly. His eyes flashed as he said, I only know that the 9-headed neonate demon cocoon absorbs the blood and souls of warriors, causing the deaths of countless warriors. As for you people from the 9-headed neonate heaven, you must know this. Yet, you still want to hold the nine-headed neonate forbidden hunt. Therefore, you should be killed just like the nine-headed neonate demon cocoon. As soon as he said that, everyone's expression changed, and they immediately became stiff. No one expected that Nye Tian would be so domineering in the face of heavenly venerate Zhuing. He even revealed killing intent. Zhuing Fenghua's face stiffened and he looked extremely embarrassed. The muscles on his face were trembling, but he did not make a move. He seemed to be afraid of something. After calming down, Zhuing Fenghua said in a deep voice, "The nine-headed neonate forbidden hunt is a killing game. Didn't you all participate for the rewards of the nine-headed neonate heaven?" Nye Tian's eyes narrowed. Although he was forced to participate in the nine-headed neonate forbidden hunt, the main reason was that he was willing to participate. The traps of the world were sometimes so naked. Those who were willing to take the bait would take the bait. In this world of martial arts, you could choose to be a yes man and live an ignoble life. You could also choose to embark on the path of martial arts and compete with everyone. Everyone's choice was different. That was all. Tell me your purpose for coming here. Nye Tian did not waste any more time and asked again. Brat, you killed the nine-headed neonate demon cocoon. You have to give the nine-headed neonate heaven an explanation. Zhuing Fenghua said in a deep and cold voice, "I am under the orders of the Holy Mother to invite you to the nine-headed neonate palace for a while." Holy Mother. Before Zhuing Fenghua could finish his words, Gao Yuhan's expression suddenly froze. Her eyes froze as she spoke in a trembling voice. She had never imagined that the Holy Mother of Zhuing wanted to see Nye Tian and the others. The Holy Mother of Zhuing was the supreme existence of the nine-headed neonate heaven. However, the Holy Mother of Zhuing only existed in legends. Gao Yuhan had been in the nine-headed neonate heaven for more than 200,000 years, but she had only heard of the Holy Mother of Zhuing. She had never seen the Holy Mother of Zhuing, even though she was an elder of the nine-headed neonate heaven. Everything in the nine-headed heaven was handled by the heavenly venerable Zhuing. Moreover, Gao Yuhan had asked the other elders of the nine-headed heaven, but no one had ever seen the Holy Mother of Zhuing. However, at this time, the heavenly venerable Zhuing actually said that the Holy Mother of Zhuing wanted to see Nye Tian. How could Gao Yuhan not be shocked? The matter of the nine-headed neonate forbidden land had finally alarmed the Holy Mother of Zhuing. However, at this time, Nye Tian's reaction was very calm. He did not know who the Holy Mother of Zhuing Fenghua was. After thinking for a moment, Nye Tianling asked coldly, "What if I don't want to go?" Gao Yuhan was stunned again when she heard Nye Tian's words. Her eyes widened as she thought she had heard wrong. Someone had actually rejected the Holy Mother of Zhuing's invitation. Zhuing Fenghua was also stunned. Then, his face darkened and he said, "Brat, do you think you have a choice?" As his voice fell, the aura around Zhuing Fenghua surged. Even the heavens and earth trembled. It was as if the entire space would collapse in the next moment. Nye Tian could feel Zhuing Fenghua's anger. He could not help but frown as he stared at the latter. With Zhuing Fenghua's strength, if he really attacked, Nye Tian would not be able to resist at all. Chapter 1769. The reason Nye Tian didn't want to go to the Nine Infants Palace was because he knew that once he went there, he would become a fat piece of meat on someone else's chopping board. If he fought back against Zhuing Fenghua now, he would be facing a peak paramount god. But once he reached the Nine Infants Palace, he would be facing countless paramount gods. Gao Yuhan was an ordinary elder of the Nine Infants Heaven, but she was already a late paramount god. That showed how powerful the Nine Infants Heaven was. But he was too weak right now. If he were at his peak, he might have taken the risk. Although the chances of him escaping were close to zero, he would at least give it a try. Nye Tian's strongest point was that no matter how strong his opponent was, he would never lose his fighting spirit. "Kid, you're smart enough to make the right choice." Zhuing Fenghua glanced at Nye Tian and smiled cold. Strangely, being able to make Nie Tian admit defeat gave Jiuying Fenghua a sense of satisfaction. One must know that, with his strength, he wouldn't even spare a glance at someone as powerful as Nie Tian. But now, he actually subconsciously regarded Nie Tian as a worthy opponent. Let's go. Nie Tian smiled and gestured for Jiuying Fenghua to lead the way. The 9 infants' demon cocoon had been killed, so the 9 infants' forbidden hunt had lost all meaning. Jiuying Fenghua's figure moved. At the same time, he waved his hand and an enormous power swept up everyone, sending them flying towards the horizon. Nie Tian and the others flew in the air, looking down at the 9 infants' mountain range. It turned out that the mountain range was more vast than they had imagined. After a while, they arrived outside a majestic palace. From the outside it looked more like a castle. It was simple and unadorned, exuding an ancient aura. A spell formation. As soon as Nie Tian arrived above the palace, he sensed the strong aura of a spell formation. It turned out that the entire castle was protected by a huge spell formation. Is this the 9 infant palace? Gao Yuhan looked at the castle below and was very surprised. Her expression was one of yearning. It turned out that the 9 infants' palace was like the 9 infants' forbidden ground, a forbidden place in the 9 infants' heaven. But the 9 infants' palace was even more mysterious. It was said that only one person lived in the entire palace, and that was the Holy Mother of Jiuying. Even Heavenly Venerate Jiuying couldn't enter the Jiuying Palace without the Holy Mother's permission. Jiuying Fenghua's figure paused in midair. He did not approach the Jiuying Palace anymore. Instead, he bowed slightly and said in a deep voice, "Holy Mother, I have brought him here." Nie Tian was taken aback when he saw Jiuying Fenghua's actions. He thought that Jiuying Fenghua would directly bring them into the palace. He did not expect that he would have to report it. It seemed like the Jiuying Fenghua was somewhat fearful of the Jiuying Palace and did not dare to approach casually. At this moment, Jiuying Fenghua's eyes were flickering. He was very puzzled. Nie Tian had trespassed into the forbidden ground of the 9-headed infants and killed the 9-headed infant demon cocoon. This had already touched upon the great interests of the 9-headed infants' heaven. The Holy Mother of Jiuying should have directly killed Nie Tian and the others to snatch back the Heart of Darkness. Why had she summoned Nie Tian and the others? What was even stranger was that the Holy Mother of Jiuying wanted to meet Nie Tian in the Jiuying Palace. Jiuying Fenghua had been in the 9-headed infant's heaven for hundreds of thousands of years and had only entered the Jiuying Palace once. That was more than 200 years ago. The Holy Mother of Jiuying had asked him to scout out some matters in the 9 major domains. But now Nie Tian and the others could easily enter the Jiuying Palace. This was too unbelievable. "Come in." Jiuying Fenghua's voice fell. After a long time, a calm and elegant voice came from the Jiuying Palace. It was very gentle, but it was very clear in everyone's ears. At the same time, the runes of the Jiuying Palace's protective array moved, and a passageway appeared. "Please." Jiuying Fenghua's figure retreated, and he gestured for Nie Tian and the others to enter. Nie Tian did not stand on ceremony. He took a step forward and entered the passageway, and the others followed. Jiuying Fenghua watched the figures of Nie Tian and the others gradually enter. He frowned and wondered. This silver-haired kid seems to have a strange aura on him. It's actually a little similar to the Holy Mother's aura. Could he be related to the Holy Mother? Jiuying Fenghua did indeed sense an aura similar to the Holy Mother of Jiuying's from Nie Tian, but it was not completely the same. This made him very puzzled. After thinking for a long time, Jiuying Fenghua could not think of a reason. His figure moved and he left. Nie Tian and the others landed on an open space. It seemed to be a square with a large hall. Nie Tian looked at the surrounding buildings, and his eyes could not help but tremble. There were huge statues everywhere. The small ones were dozens of meters tall, and the big ones were hundreds of meters tall. Some were even thousands of meters tall. Those statues were of strange mythological beasts. Nie Tian did not recognize them at all. Distinguished guests, please follow me. At this moment, a rainbow-colored bird flew over and actually spoke. Then, it flapped its wings and led the way. Nie Tian and the others were surprised and immediately followed the colorful bird. Along the way, the group took many turns and finally arrived at a small secluded courtyard. This is such a big palace, but there is no one? Nie Tian could not help but feel puzzled after walking for so long without meeting a single person. He did not know that in the entire Jiuying Palace, there was only the Holy Mother of Jiuying. Holy Mother, Yun'er has brought him here. The rainbow-colored bird stopped outside the courtyard and chirped. Yun'er, you can leave. A gentle voice sounded in the small courtyard. It was the same voice from before. Listening to this voice at such a close distance, it was even more mesmerizing and magnetic. The colorful bird called Yun'er chirped, then flapped its wings and left. At this moment, Nie Tian frowned. Although he could hear the voice of the Holy Mother of Jiuying, he could not sense her presence at all. At this moment, he was only a few dozen meters away from the small courtyard. At such a close distance, he could sense the slightest movement. However, he could not sense the aura of the Holy Mother of Jiuying at all. Come in. At this moment, the Holy Mother of Jiuying's voice sounded again. It was elegant and gentle. Nie Tian and the others were puzzled, but they did not think too much about it and directly walked into the small courtyard. After entering the small courtyard, Nie Tian and the others saw that the entire courtyard was actually a garden. The courtyard was filled with blooming flowers. Under the illumination of the sun, they glowed brilliantly and made people feel the vitality. However, the strange thing was that Nie Tian did not see anyone. Just as he was surprised, a figure in white slowly walked out. His body emitted an elegant and gentle halo. Under the sunlight, he looked incomparably holy, making people immediately want to worship him. Nie Tian suddenly raised his head and stared at the face of the figure in white. This was the face of a middle-aged woman. Time had not left any traces on her face, but it had left an even more obvious elegant beauty. This woman's every move, every frown, and every smile all displayed a dignified and elegant beauty. It made people feel that she was noble and holy. Holy Mother of Jiuying. Nie Tian's gaze froze as he exclaimed in his heart. Chapter 1770. In the small courtyard, the others stared at the Holy Mother of Jiuying. They were similarly stunned by her noble and holy beauty. Their expressions were blank, and they could not react for a long time. Nie Tian stared blankly for a moment before he discovered something strange. He was only a few meters away from the Holy Mother of Jiuying, but he could not sense her aura at all. Although his perception was not the best, it was still very terrifying. It was too strange that he could sense her aura at such a close distance. The Holy Mother of Jiuying was a supreme existence in the sky of Jiuying. Her strength was definitely at the pinnacle of paramount god, and she was definitely more terrifying than the Jiuying Fenghua. Nie Tian had never seen a paramount god who could conceal her aura so perfectly. That was because the stronger a warrior was, the stronger their aura would be. It was almost impossible to conceal one's aura perfectly. A pinnacle paramount god concealing her aura to the extreme. How is this possible? At this moment, the fat cat's voice rang out, and she had a look of disbelief on her face. The fat cat had dealt with the 9 gods of Hua before. Even the latter, who was said to be a half-sage, could not conceal her aura to this extent. This woman is strange. The fat cat's blue eyes flashed, and she said solemnly. Nie Tian was stunned. He did not understand what the fat cat meant by strange. Thank you for coming here. At this moment, the Holy Mother of Jiuying spoke again. Her warm lips were very gentle, and her every movement made people feel elegant beauty. Nie Tian looked at the Holy Mother of Jiuying. His eyes flashed and then became determined. He took a step forward and said, "Holy Mother, Why have you called us here? In Nye Tian's view, the Holy Mother of Jiuying's current state was just a disguise. She was the supreme expert of the sky of Jiying. Her position could not be secured by being elegant and noble. Therefore, Nye Tian did not waste time and went straight to the point. The Holy Mother of Jiying's gaze swept across Nye Tian. Her expression changed slightly, and then she nodded, as if she was very satisfied. Then, she nodded slightly and said, I already know what happened in the forbidden land of 9 infants. Before the Holy Mother Jiying could finish speaking, Nye Tian took a step forward and said solemnly, I was the one who killed the 9-headed neonate demonic cocoon. If you want revenge, just kill me alone. Don't hurt my friends. The Holy Mother of Jiying's lips curled up warmly. Her gentle gaze roamed over Nye Tian's body. However, she laughed and said, Did I say that I would kill you? Nye Tian was stunned for a moment, his brows furrowed. The Holy Mother of Jiying did not show any killing intent. In fact, she was very peaceful. Instead, she gave off a faint sense of closeness. However, Nye Tian could not understand why the Holy Mother of Jiying would do this. Shouldn't she be very concerned about the Jiying demonic cocoon? I know what you're thinking. The Holy Mother of Jiying laughed and said, The sky of Jiying has spent hundreds of thousands of years trying to awaken the Jiying demonic cocoon. Now that the 9-headed neonate demonic cocoon has awakened, it was killed by you. I had every reason to kill you, but I didn't. That's strange. Yeah. Nye Tian nodded his head heavily. Since the other party had said what he was thinking, he did not hide it. He asked directly, Why didn't you kill us? Follow me. The Holy Mother of Jiying looked at Nye Tian and spoke plainly. Immediately after, she waved her hand and said to the others, Please wait here. The others were stunned. They did not know what the Holy Mother of Jiying wanted to say to Nye Tian. However, they did not dare to go against the Holy Mother of Jiying's wishes. They could only wait where they were. Follow me. The Holy Mother of Jiying smiled faintly. Immediately after, she stepped forward. Nye Tian's face was gloomy, but he still followed. I understand. Just then, little Fat Cat's surprised cry rang out, filled with joy. Fat, what do you know? Nye Tian was stunned and asked with a face full of doubt. The Fat Cat was very excited. At the same time, there was some fear in her eyes. After a while, she said, Nye Tian, this woman's body has integrated with the soul of darkness. Soul of darkness? Nye Tian was stunned again. He did not know what the Fat Cat was talking about. The Fat Cat explained, The darkness origin is the dark abyss. It is divided into 3 parts: the heart of darkness, the hand of darkness, and the soul of darkness. Among the 3 dark bodies, the soul of darkness is the strongest. This woman has integrated with the power of the soul of darkness. That is why she can hide her aura so perfectly. Nye Tian's eyes narrowed. He finally understood. The heart of darkness that he had obtained was only a part of the darkness origin. And the strongest part of the darkness origin, the soul of darkness, had been integrated with the Holy Mother of Jiying. The Holy Mother of Jiying had integrated with the soul of darkness. Therefore, it went without saying how important the heart of darkness was to her. Nye Tian guessed that the heaven of Jiying had awakened the heart of darkness because the Holy Mother of Jiying wanted to integrate with the heart of darkness. However, at this moment, Nye Tian thought of something. He asked in surprise, Fat, didn't you say that ordinary godhoods are unable to integrate with origin energy? Is there something strange about the Holy Mother of Jiying's godhood? Little Fat Cat was stunned for a moment, but fell into silence, thinking hard. Even some special godheads would find it difficult to fuse with the darkness element's origin power. This was because the darkness origin contained the power of the darkness origin, and darkness attribute warriors were extremely rare. Seeing that the Fat Cat was silent, Nye Tian could not help but frown. The Holy Mother of Jiying's identity was becoming more and more mysterious. After a while, Nye Tian and the Holy Mother of Jiuying came to a unique room. In the room, the Holy Mother of Jiuying looked at Nye Tian and suddenly said, "You really have the God-fiend essence embryo." Nye Tian was stunned. He did not expect the Holy Mother of Jiuying to recognize the God-fiend essence embryo at a glance. "You don't have to be nervous." The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled faintly and said, "Aren't you curious why I didn't kill you? I'll tell you now. It's because you have the God-fiend essence embryo." Nye Tian was stunned again. His face was filled with doubt. The God-fiend essence embryo was the reason why the Holy Mother of Jiuying did not kill him. Could it be that the Holy Mother of Jiuying had designs on the God-fiend essence embryo? Thinking of this, Nye Tian's face darkened. He immediately became cautious. The Holy Mother of Jiuying looked at Nye Tian's reaction and smiled again. Then she raised her palm. A dense dark aura appeared and surged in her palm. Nye Tian felt the aura and could not help but tremble. His entire person became sluggish. His mouth was wide open, but he could not speak. "This is..." At the same time, the fat cat also sensed something. She immediately exclaimed, "Extreme demon embryo!" Nye Tian and the fat cat froze at the same time. They could not react for a long time. The dark aura that surged out of the Holy Mother of Jiuying's hand was the aura of the extreme demon embryo, and Nye Tian's God-fiend essence embryo was formed by the fusion of the God-imprisoning embryo and the extreme demon embryo. The God-imprisoning embryo was the bloodline power of the Nye family, while the extreme demon embryo was the bloodline power of the Qi Wu family. Since the Holy Mother of Jiuying had the extreme demon embryo, it meant that she was a member of the Qi Wu family, and Nye Tian's mother, Qi Wu Yunxiu, was a member of the Qi Wu family. Moreover, she was also someone who had the extreme demon embryo. But the woman in front of them could not be Nye Tian's mother, because her age did not match. Chapter 1771. Nye Tian felt the dark aura in Holy Mother Jiuying's palm. His eyes trembled violently, and his body trembled slightly. He was very familiar with this aura. It was very similar to the aura of the God-fiend essence fetus, but there was a slight difference. It was an extremely pure dark aura. When he heard Fat Cat say the words "extreme demon fetus," his entire expression froze, and he was petrified on the spot. Holy Mother Jiuying looked at Nye Tian's expression and was not too surprised. Following that, the dark aura in her palm dissipated. She smiled faintly and said, "You should be very familiar with this aura. It is the aura of the extreme demon fetus. I think you should know who I am now." This. After more than 10 seconds, Nye Tian's stiff face finally showed a trace of emotion. He took a deep breath, and his eyes were still full of disbelief. He had never expected to meet someone with the extreme demon fetus here. Holy Mother Jiuying had the extreme demon fetus, which meant that she was from the Qi Wu family. However, she obviously could not be Nye Tian's mother because she was too old. Although Nye Tian could not sense Holy Mother Jiuying's aura, he could infer from her martial body that she was definitely an old monster who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. On the other hand, Nye Tian's mother, Qi Wu Yunxiu, was less than 1,000 years old. The difference was too great. However, there was no doubt that Holy Mother Jiuying was a senior of the Qi Wu family. She and Nye Tian were related by blood. Holy Mother Jiuying was not in a hurry. She waited for Nye Tian to calm down before smiling faintly and saying, "If you have any questions, feel free to ask." Nye Tian took a deep breath and finally calmed down. He asked, "Holy Mother Jiuying, since you have the extreme demon fetus, it means that you are from the Qi Wu family. Why are you here?" Holy Mother Jiuying had already expected Nye Tian's question. She smiled slightly and seemed to think for a moment before asking, "Do you know about the 9 great families of creation?" "I have." Hearing the name of the 9 great families of creation, Nye Tian's eyes trembled slightly and he nodded solemnly. Nye Tian had heard a little about the 9 great families, but he didn't know much about them. He only knew that these were the 9 great aristocratic families. The Nye family and the Chi-Wu family were among them. Moreover, they were the 2 strongest families among the 9 great aristocratic families. Since you've heard of it, I'll make it short. The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled elegantly and said, the Nye family and the Chi-Wu family are both part of the 9 great families. However, after the world creation, the ancestors of the Nye family and the Chi-Wu family had a disagreement. In the end, the 2 families started a war. Because the Nye clan possesses the god-restricting fetus, they are called the God Clan. The Chi-Wu clan, which possessed the extreme demon fetus, was known as the Demon Clan. The battle between the 2 aristocratic families was known as the War of the Ancient Gods and Demons. That battle caused the heavens and the earth to shake, the weather to change, and the sun and moon to lose their radiance. In the end, the Chi-Wu clan was defeated and exiled to the plain world's 9th hell. The Nye clan, on the other hand, has always lived in this realm. The Chi-Wu family was defeated, but the Chi-Wu family's ancestor survived. He led a portion of his clansmen to the Chi-Wu family's ancestral land to establish a new world. The forbidden land of martialism that you are in right now is the Chi-Wu family's ancestral land. After hearing that, Nye Tian couldn't help but be taken aback. So the forbidden land of martialism was the Chi-Wu family's ancestral land. Before, he had heard the Wind and Cloud Alliance's master, who was also his grandfather, Nye Dao, mention the Nye family's ancestral land. At that time, he even thought that the Nye family's ancestral land was a hidden place. But looking at it now, he was wrong. Perhaps the Nye family's ancestral land was the same as the Chi-Wu family's ancestral land, also a different space. However, the Chi-Wu family's ancestral land was really too terrifying. It actually controlled so many subsidiary worlds. The Holy Mother of Jiuying was likely a member of the Chi-Wu family, who came to the forbidden land of martialism with the Chi-Wu family's ancestor. As for Nye Tian's mother, Chi-Wu Yunxiu, she was a member of the Chi-Wu family who was exiled to the 9th hell. Every single one of the 9 great families of creation has an ancestral land. Actually, it is the place where every single family rose to power. The Holy Mother of Jiuying calmly smiled, then her eyes flashed. She asked, "Do you know why the 9 great families are called the 9 great families of creation?" Nye Tian was taken aback, then he asked, "Isn't it because the ancestors of the 9 great families created the 9 great domains?" From what he had heard, the 9 great families of creation were the creators of the 9 great domains. Thus, they were called the 9 great families of creation. The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled, but she couldn't help but shake her head. She said, "What you've heard are only rumors. You can't treat them as true." The ancestors of the 9 great families were indeed peerless characters. However, the strongest among them only had strength nearing that of a saint. They had yet to reach the realm of a saint. It is simply impossible for people with strength like that to create a world. Nye Tian frowned, then asked, "Then why are they called the 9 great families of creation?" The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled again and said, "In the primordial age, there was a great extinction. Most of the races perished during that great extinction. The once prosperous mystical dragon race, the long-lived elf race, and the dwarf race, who were skilled in smelting, all perished during the primordial age. After the great extinction, the 9 great domains withered. The 9 great families of creation appeared at that time. That was how the human race rose and the 9 great domains began a new era. The ancestors of the 9 great families did not create the world, but they did create a new world. That is why they are called the 9 great families of creation. So that's how it is." Nye Tian nodded. He knew very little about the primordial era and the primordial era. However, he could tell that the great extinction that the Holy Mother of Jiuying mentioned must be the period when the Dragon Rebel tribe existed. Because it was the Dragon Rebel tribe that destroyed the Divine Dragon tribe, the Fairy tribe, and other races. That period was called the Great Extinction of the Archean Age. It seemed that the number of races that the dragon rebel tribe destroyed was much more than Nye Tian had imagined. The dragon rebel tribe was definitely the top race in the Archean Age. Actually, the division of the eras had never been clear. The Archean Age, and the Middle Age were basically hundreds of thousands of years. Before the dragon rebel tribe, it should be the Archean Age. After the dragon rebel tribe, it should be the Archean Age. Anyway, these eras were too far away from Nye Tian. It was impossible to figure them out completely. Holy Mother, are you the ancestor of the Qi Wu family? Suddenly, Nye Tian seemed to have thought of something. His eyes flashed as he asked. The 9 great families appeared after the dragon rebel tribe, and the dragon rebel tribe disappeared more than 600,000 years ago. If the Holy Mother of Jiuying could live for more than 600,000 years, then it was highly likely that she was the ancestor of the Qi Wu family. However, 600,000 years was the limit of a God Realm warrior's lifespan. The Holy Mother of Jiuying did not look like a warrior who had lived to the limit. Instead, she looked like a warrior who had lived in the past. Of course, I am not the ancestor of the Qi Wu family, but I am the current clan leader of the Qi Wu family. The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled faintly. Obviously, she did not expect Nye Tian to make such a guess. Nye Tian could not help but smile. It seemed that he had overthought. Then, Nye Tian thought for a while and asked his second question. He said, "Holy Mother, why do you have the soul of darkness in your body?" Chapter 1772. Hearing Nye Tian mention the soul of darkness, Holy Mother Jiuying could not help but be stunned. Then she smiled and said, "Little guy, I did not expect you to be able to see through the soul of darkness." Nye Tian smiled slightly and did not speak. He waited for Holy Mother Jiuying to answer him. Actually, Nye Tian had not seen through the soul of darkness. It had been Fat Cat who had told him. With his perception, it was impossible for him to sense the soul of darkness. Holy Mother Jiuying's expression returned to normal as she said lightly, "The soul of darkness was obtained by the Qi Wu family's ancestor. My ancestor merged with the soul of darkness. Later, the soul of darkness became an item passed down from generation to generation in the Qi Wu family. Every Qi Wu family leader had to merge with the soul of darkness. Only by merging with the soul of darkness could one become the recognized leader of the family." Nye Tian's expression changed slightly. It turned out that the soul of darkness was first merged with the Qi Wu family's ancestor and then passed down from generation to generation. The extreme demon fetus was originally of the Yin and darkness attribute, which was compatible with the soul of darkness. It was not surprising that the special godhood condensed by the extreme demon fetus could merge with the soul of darkness. Holy Mother, I would like to know what the Jiuying hunting ban is about. Nye Tian took a deep breath and finally asked about the Jiuying hunting ban. The Jiuying hunting ban was actually a killing trap. It attracted martial geniuses from various subsidiary worlds to enter the Jiuying mountain range. They were eventually killed, and their blood and qi were absorbed by the Jiuying demon cocoon to nourish it and continue to survive. The Holy Mother of Jiuying frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, she said, "The Jiuying hunting ban was set by the ancestors of the Qi Wu family. Every clan leader of the Qi Wu family has to continue the Jiuying hunting ban. Now that you have killed the Jiuying demon cocoon, the Jiuying hunting ban ends here." Nye Tian's expression darkened. "I killed the Jiuying demon cocoon and destroyed the Jiuying hunting ban. Do you really not want to kill me?" Holy Mother Jiuying was from the Qi Wu family. Nye Tian had the Qi Wu family's bloodline and could be considered half a member of the Qi Wu family. But just because of this weak bloodline, Holy Mother Jiuying did not kill him. This reason was a little far-fetched. The ban on hunting in Jiuying had lasted for hundreds of thousands of years. It went without saying how important it was to the sky of Jiuying. Did the Holy Mother of Jiuying not have the slightest desire to kill a person who had destroyed the Jiuying forbidden hunt? On this point, Nie Tian expressed his doubts. The Holy Mother of Jiuying looked at Nie Tian with unprecedented seriousness. She was silent for a long time, as if she was recalling many things. Then, she sighed deeply and said, "Your personality is really similar to Yunxiu's." When Nie Tian heard the name Yunxiu, he was stunned. His face darkened and he exclaimed, "You know my mother?" When the Holy Mother of Jiuying mentioned Yunxiu, she was obviously referring to Qiwu Yunxiu, Nie Tian's mother. Nie Tian had never expected the Holy Mother of Jiuying to know his mother. Yet, the Holy Mother of Jiuying's expression eased as she nodded slightly. "Holy Mother of Jiuying, what is your relationship with my mother?" Nie Tian suppressed the shock in his heart and asked solemnly. He knew nothing about his parents. Now that he had a chance to find out more, he was naturally very excited. The Holy Mother of Jiuying hesitated and said, "I am your mother's teacher." "Teacher?" Nie Tian was taken aback. He said in shock, "My mother came here before?" "Yes." The Holy Mother of Jiuying nodded and said, "Yunxiu came with your father." Nie Tian's expression froze again. His mouth was agape, but he could not say anything for a long time. The Holy Mother of Jiuying recalled many things. Then, she sighed deeply and said, "Back then, your parents came here by accident and not to participate in the Jiuying forbidden hunt. Your mother is a very tenacious person. Out of all the people I have met, I have never seen someone as stubborn as her. Later, I found out that Yunxiu came to the forbidden land of martialism to find the Qiwu clan. I remember when she found out that the heaven of Jiuying was the Qiwu clan, she was very happy. However, some unpleasant things happened between us. She left with your father. What happened? What happened between you and her?" Nie Tian was taken aback for a moment before he asked anxiously. "I wanted her to be the next clan leader of the Qiwu clan, but she chose your father," the Holy Mother of Jiuying said solemnly. Then, she said regretfully, "If she had stayed here back then, perhaps she would already be the master of the heaven of Jiuying." Nie Tian immediately fell silent. He guessed that his mother must have chosen to leave because she could not stand the restrictions here. Although the identity of the master of the heaven of Jiuying was a good one, the burden on one's shoulders was also very heavy. It was not something anyone could do. The Holy Mother of Jiuying and Nie Tian were silent for a long time. After a long time, Nie Tian suddenly raised his head to look at the Holy Mother of Jiuying and asked curiously, "You knew my identity from the start?" "No." The Holy Mother of Jiuying shook her head and said with a smile, "I only knew your identity after seeing you because your eyes are too similar to Yunxiu's." Nie Tian smiled and immediately said, "Holy Mother of Jiuying, tell me about my father." When the Holy Mother of Jiuying heard Nie Tian mention Nie Fenghua, her pupils involuntarily shrank. Her expression darkened. After a while, she regained her composure and said solemnly, "It's better not to talk about your father." Nie Tian's face darkened. It seemed like the Holy Mother of Jiuying had a deep prejudice against his father, and was not even willing to talk about it. However, Nie Tian could see that the Holy Mother of Jiuying must have doted on his mother very much. Every time she mentioned Yunxiu's name, it was filled with love. The relationship between Nie Tian and Qiwu Yunxiu was the real reason why the Holy Mother of Jiuying did not kill him. "All right, this is my relationship with my mother." The Holy Mother of Jiuying regained her elegant expression and smiled faintly. "Now you should believe that I won't kill you." "I do." Nie Tian smiled faintly, feeling a little embarrassed. Speaking of which, the Holy Mother of Jiuying should be considered Nie Tian's grandmaster. "Holy Mother of Jiuying, I really want to know what the Jiuying demonic cocoon means to the Qiwu family. Why did the ancestors of the Qiwu family set up the Jiuying hunting ban?" Nie Tian had completely calmed down and asked lightly. He was very curious as to why the ancestors of the Qiwu family set up the Jiuying hunting ban and had been nurturing the heart of darkness. I don't know either. The Holy Mother of Jiuying shook her head slightly and said, the ancestors only set the Jiuying hunting ban. As for why, they never mentioned it. Nie Tian frowned. With a thought, the crucible of hell appeared. Immediately, the room was filled with a scorching aura. The heart of darkness. The Holy Mother of Jiuying sensed that the heart of darkness was in the crucible of hell. She could not help but be shocked. She did not know what Nie Tian was going to do. Holy Mother of Jiuying, the heart of darkness originally belonged to the heaven of Jiuying. I'll return it to you now. Nie Tian smiled faintly. Then, he slowly let the heart of darkness flow out of the crucible of hell and placed it in front of the Holy Mother of Jiuying. Chapter 1773. In the room, the Holy Mother of Jiuying looked at the heart of darkness in front of her but did not move. Instead, she was deep in thought. Holy Mother, the heart of darkness is yours, Nie Tian said with a faint smile, thinking that the Holy Mother of Jiuying was too excited. You can keep the heart of darkness, the Holy Mother of Jiuying said in a deep voice unexpectedly. She wanted Nie Tian to keep the heart of darkness. Nie Tian was taken aback. He asked in confusion, Holy Mother, don't you want to fuse with the heart of darkness? The Holy Mother of Jiuying had already integrated with the soul of darkness, and the heart of darkness and the soul of darkness were originally one. They were both darkness origin energy. Logically speaking, the Holy Mother of Jiuying should be very eager to obtain the heart of darkness. The Holy Mother of Jiuying's expression was solemn. She shook her head and said, although the heart of darkness and the soul of darkness are of the same origin, the two reject each other. Since I have already integrated with the soul of darkness, I can't integrate with the heart of darkness. Well, Nie Tian was struck dumb. He didn't expect it to be like this. Actually, thinking about it, it made sense. If the dark soul and the heart of darkness could be fused at the same time, the ancestor of the Qi family would have done so a long time ago. There was no need to just fuse the dark soul and seal the heart of darkness in the nine-headed neonate demonic cocoon. Perhaps Qi Wu's ancestors had been thinking of ways to fuse the soul of darkness and the heart of darkness at the same time. Keep the heart of darkness. If there's a chance, you can merge with the heart of darkness yourself, the Holy Mother of Jiuying said to Nie Tian with a faint smile. Nie Tian had a God-fiend essence embryo, so he also had the ability to fuse with the heart of darkness. Nie Tian put away the heart of darkness. He still had a confused expression on his face. Why would two things from the same source reject each other? Nie Tian, actually, the heart of darkness and soul of darkness can be fused at the same time. At this moment, the fat cat's voice rang out. She chuckled and said, but this requires something else. What is it? Nie Tian went blank for a moment before asking anxiously. The hand of darkness. The fat cat's lips curled up as she uttered a name. The soul of darkness, the heart of darkness, and the hand of darkness were the three parts of the dark origin. Seeing the puzzled look on Nie Tian's face, the fat cat explained, the three forms of the dark origin are three existences that reinforce and restrain each other. One of them can exist alone, but when any two of them are put together, there will be a huge repulsion between them. However, if the three bodies are fused together, then a perfect balance will be achieved. Nie Tian's brows furrowed as he understood what the little fat cat meant. The three darkness attributes were like the five elements. A single attribute could exist, but two attributes, such as water and fire, would not tolerate each other. However, if the five elements were combined, then there would be a perfect balance. The same principle applied to the three bodies of darkness. If the Holy Mother of Jiuying forcefully merged with the heart of darkness without the hand of darkness, she would be courting death. At this moment, the Holy Mother of Jiuying suddenly asked with a smile, "Oh, right. I still don't know your name." Nie Tian. Nie Tian smiled faintly. Nie Tian. Not a bad name. The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled faintly, then said, Nie Tian, I have a favor to ask of you. Lord Holy Mother, please speak. Nye Tian smiled faintly. As long as he could do it, he would definitely help. I want you to stay in the forbidden land of martialism and become the next chief of the Chi Wu clan, the Holy Mother of Jiuying said with a deep voice, her expression suddenly turning solemn. Hearing the Holy Mother of Jiuying's words, Nye Tian's pupils involuntarily shrank. He did not expect her to raise such a condition. Although Nye Tian had the blood of the Chi Wu clan flowing in his body, his surname was, after all, Nye. Moreover, the Chi Wu clan and the Nye clan could be said to be mortal enemies. Was it really appropriate for such a person to be the chief of the Chi Wu clan? Nye Tian, don't worry. You have the blood of the Chi Wu clan flowing in your body. I can convince the people of the Chi Wu clan to respect you as their chief, the Holy Mother of Jiuying said gravely when she saw Nye Tian's stunned expression. Nye Tian was stunned for a long time. Finally, he reacted and said, Lord Holy Mother, I really cannot agree to this. Why? The Holy Mother of Jiuying could not help but ask doubtfully when she felt Nye Tian's refusal was very firm. Nye Tian thought for a moment. Without hiding anything, he told her his current situation. He did not have much time. There were too many people around him that he needed to save. How could he stay in the forbidden land of martialism? The Holy Mother of Jiuying was stunned. She did not know that something had happened to Nye Tian's parent. Lord Holy Mother, I must raise my strength to the level of a paramount god or even a peak paramount god within 10 years. So, I really cannot stay here, Nye Tian said gravely with a solemn expression. The Holy Mother of Jiuying was shocked. If it were anyone else who said such words, she would definitely treat that person as a fool or a madman. However, Nye Tian was someone who possessed the demon god nascent embryo. His words were very powerful. After a while, the Holy Mother of Jiuying's expression eased. She forced a smile and said, Nye Tian, you cannot stay in the forbidden land of martialism. I will not force you. I will also think of a way to deal with your parents. If you need my help, do not hesitate to ask. Thank you, Lord Holy Mother. Nye Tian bowed and thanked. He would deal with his parents himself. Moreover, the enemy he faced was very powerful. It was the strongest of the 9 realms, the Holy Parliament. He could not possibly ask the Holy Mother of Jiuying to lead all the experts of the sky of Jiuying to fight the Holy Parliament. After all, the Holy Mother of Jiuying was the leader of the sky of Jiuying. She had to consider the safety of the sky of Jiuying. Following that, the Holy Mother of Jiuying and Nye Tian talked for a long time before they left the room. In the courtyard, everyone heaved a long sigh of relief when they saw Nye Tian and the Holy Mother of Jiuying walk out. Nye Tian and the Holy Mother of Jiuying had been in the room for so long that everyone thought the Holy Mother of Jiuying was making things difficult for Nye Tian. The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled elegantly and said to everyone, Everyone, you will temporarily stay in the Jiuying Palace. As long as you are willing, you can leave at any time. The Holy Mother of Jiuying's eyes trembled and their expressions froze. They thought they had heard wrongly. Following that, the Holy Mother of Jiuying did not say much. She called Gao Yuhan away and had the others disperse. After Nye Tian and the others left the courtyard, they were led by the rainbow-colored bird, Yun'er, to their living quarters. The divine intent power here is very dense. It's even denser than in the cultivation room. The group had just stepped into the courtyard when they felt the dense divine intent power in the air. They could not help but exclaim in joy. The living quarters that the Holy Mother of Jiuying had arranged for them were very good. It was under a spirit concentration design. The divine intent power in the entire courtyard was very dense. Cultivating here for a day was equivalent to cultivating in the outside world for a year. Nye Tian and the others did not stand on ceremony. They each chose their own room and went to rest. At this moment, they were all very weak and urgently needed to recover. 3 days later, Nye Tian walked out of his room. He had already recovered to his peak condition. His aura was sharp and his eyes were shining with vigor. Chapter 1774. In the courtyard, Nie Tian arrived outside Rui Qinyu's room. Nie Tian. Rui Qinyu sensed Nie Tian's arrival, and walked out of the room. Qianye, how are you recovering? Nie Tian smiled faintly and scanned Rui Qinyu's body with his divine sense. He found that the latter had recovered well and was fine. However, Nie Tian found that the devour power in Rui Qinyu's body was getting stronger and stronger. It could not be suppressed for much longer. It was probably because she had used the 9-color pupils too many times, causing the devour power to act up. I'm fine now. Rui Qinyu smiled faintly and looked calm. Qianye, I'm going to use the Heart of Darkness to help you suppress the devour power. Nie Tian nodded and told her what he was thinking. Rui Qinyu's gaze froze slightly as if she was worried. She said, Nie Tian, are you sure the Heart of Darkness won't harm you? Back in the abyss, when the Heart of Darkness appeared, Luo Xian was injured by it. Rui Qinyu could still remember that scene. Therefore, she was worried that if she used the Heart of Darkness, it would harm Nie Tian. Don't worry, I can control the Heart of Darkness. Nie Tian smiled faintly and showed his full confidence. Rui Qinyu nodded and did not decline anymore. Next, Nie Tian found Gao Yuhan and followed the rainbow bird Yun'er to a secluded place. Although Nie Tian looked very confident on the surface, he was not completely sure. The Heart of Darkness contained an extremely terrifying power of darkness. Using this power, it could indeed completely suppress the power of the 9-colored pupils' blood devour. However, there was a problem, and that was that Nie Tian had not fused with the Heart of Darkness. If he forcefully activated the power of the Heart of Darkness, it was possible that he would absorb a small amount of the power of darkness. Although it was only a small amount of dark force, it was still origin energy. It was not a small burden on Nie Tian's martial body. Nie Tian gestured for Gao Yuhan and Rui Qinyu to sit with their legs crossed and asked, Elder Qinyu, are you guys ready? We're ready. The two looked at each other, exhaled deeply, and nodded. All right. Nie Tian took a deep breath to calm his nerves. Then he summoned the Hellfire Crucible, which radiated a scorching aura. I'm going to start. Nie Tian nodded and withdrew the Hellfire Crucible. The scorching aura in the air was replaced by dark force. The entire area was filled with a strong dark power. Nie Tian stared at the Heart of Darkness. Without hesitation, he began to slowly release Sword Will to stimulate the Heart of Darkness. Boom! The Heart of Darkness trembled under the impact of the Sword Will. Suddenly, a wave of dark power was released. Nie Tian reacted very quickly. He released the power of the stars and wrapped it around the dark power. The power of the stars could suppress the dark power, but Nie Tian was still too weak. Forcibly controlling the dark power made him feel a lot of pressure. Nie Tian took a deep breath and released more power of the stars. He controlled the dark power and slowly poured it into Gao Yuhan's eyes. Ah! This was the purest dark power. At that moment, Gao Yuhan felt a terrible pressure pouring into her eyes. She couldn't help but scream. Then her delicate face twisted. She was obviously in a lot of pain. She had opened the 8th pupil of her 9-color pupils. The devour power was very strong, so she was suffering a lot of pain. When Nie Tian saw the dark power flowing into Gao Yuhan's eyes, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Then, he did the same thing and drew out another wave of dark power and poured it into Rui Qinyu's eyes. Rui Qinyu felt a sharp pain coming from her eyes to her whole body. But she was very tough. She gritted her teeth and did not cry out. Rui Qinyu had only opened the 5th pupil. Her devour power was much weaker than Gao Yuhan's, so she was suffering relatively less. It worked! Nie Tian felt the dark power begin to merge with Rui Qinyu's eyes. He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. But at this moment, his forehead was already dripping with cold sweat. The process just now was simple, but it was very dangerous. If there had been the slightest mistake, Gao Yuhan and Rui Qinyu's lives would have been in danger. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. Nothing went wrong. Nie Tian wiped the sweat off his forehead. With a thought, the crucible of hell appeared. He was ready to put away the heart of darkness. However, right at this moment, an unexpected event occurred. Boom! The moment the crucible of hell appeared, the heart of darkness shook violently. Then, a terrible wave of dark power rushed out and pressed down on Nie Tian. Ah! Nie Tian was taken aback, and couldn't help but let out a cry. He wanted to defend himself, but it was too late. The terrifying dark energy enveloped him, and he immediately felt an incredible pressure coming from all directions, almost suffocating him. He wanted to resist, but to his horror, his yuan meridians and godhead were suppressed. He couldn't circulate them. Damn it! Nie Tian let out a bellow. However, even more raging dark power bore down on him, filling the space within dozens of meters around him with dark power. Nie Tian, Gao Yuhan and Rui Qinyu stood up at this time. Seeing the scene in front of them, they cried out in alarm. Hurry up and leave! Nie Tian roared. Starlight surged out from his body, but the dark power was too strong. Starlight couldn't drive it away. In the next moment, the dark power became violent, rushing into Nie Tian's body. In an instant, it filled his meridians, blood, and even his bones. This dark power was too terrifying. Nie Tian couldn't resist it at all. However, at that moment, the heart of darkness was still surging madly, unleashing even greater amounts of dark power towards Nie Tian, as if it were going to devour him completely. It was as if Nie Tian's two-sword intents had activated the heart of darkness, causing it to go berserk. In the nick of time, Fat Cat's figure appeared. With a swipe of its paws, it used the Hellfire Crucible to envelop the heart of darkness. Immediately, the dark power around Nie Tian weakened. But at this time, Nie Tian's body was completely filled with dark power. Ah! In the next moment, Nie Tian felt the dark power crazily attacking his body. It was as if millions of ants were biting him, wanting to tear him to shreds. Nie Tian! Fat Cat shrieked, but there was nothing he could do. The dark power had already invaded Nie Tian's body, and he had no way to force it out. Next, they could only wait and see if Nie Tian's martial physique was strong enough to withstand the dark power's attack. Gao Yuhan and Rui Qinyu watched from the side, but there was nothing they could do to help. Ah! The dark power became more and more violent, and Nie Tian suddenly stood up. His shirt was torn to shreds, revealing his muscular body. Gao Yuhan and Rui Qinyu saw this, and their eyes widened in shock. Chapter 1775. Seeing Nie Tian covered in blood, Gao Yuhan and Rui Qinyu were frightened. They panicked and did not know what to do. Nie Tian's body was covered in blood. His skin and flesh were curled up. Waves of terrifying dark power surged. It was a bloody and terrifying scene. What's going on? At this moment, a voice sounded. Then, a figure in white landed. It was Holy Mother Jiuying. Holy Mother! Seeing Holy Mother Jiuying arrive, Gao Yuhan quickly stepped forward and said simply. Holy Mother Jiuying's face was gloomy. No one knew what she was thinking. She did not expect Nie Tian to use the heart of darkness to suppress the power of the 9-colored pupils. This was a very dangerous thing to do. The dark power of the heart of darkness could indeed completely suppress the blood devour. However, the heart of darkness was extremely violent. Even an expert like Holy Mother Jiuying, who had merged with the soul of darkness, did not dare to go near the heart of darkness. Nie Tian dared to use sword will to trigger the dark power. This was simply asking for death. Holy Mother, what do we do now? Gao Yuhan asked nervously when she saw the bloody wounds on Nie Tian's body opening up. The air was filled with the stench of blood. Holy Mother, please save Nie Tian. Rui Qinyu pleaded with tears streaming down her face. Holy Mother Jiuying stood where she was. Her face was gloomy. She did not know how to save Nie Tian. If she used the power of the soul of darkness, She could indeed force out the dark power in Nye Tian's body. However, the soul of darkness was even more terrifying than the heart of darkness. Nye Tian's martial body would definitely not be able to withstand it. However, Holy Mother Jiuying was a little puzzled. It was strange that Nye Tian could withstand the devouring of the dark power for so long. I can't save him. Whether he can survive depends on his own luck, Holy Mother Jiuying said solemnly. She stared at Nye Tian with a strange expression. She realized that the dark power in Nye Tian's body was slowly weakening. It seemed that something was helping him absorb the dark power. Holy Mother Jiuying suddenly realized that there were many strange dragon-shaped runes surging in Nye Tian's body. It was these runes that were absorbing the dark power. When the Holy Mother of Jiuying sensed this, she could not help but be shocked. She had no idea what runes could have such terrifying power that could absorb the dark power. It should be known that the power of darkness originated from the power of darkness. This was the power of darkness. Therefore, no matter what the dragon symbol inside Nye Tian's body was, it must be very terrifying. At this moment, Nye Tian also felt that something was amiss. Although he was still suffering from the pain of being torn apart, he had calmed down a lot. The runes in his body that were absorbing the power of darkness were none other than the 3 great forbidden runes. Nye Tian hadn't expected that the forbidden rune could absorb dark power. At that moment, the magical symbols that had absorbed the dark power from Nye Tian's body went berserk, causing the dark power within Nye Tian to rapidly weaken. The dark power in his body had been devoured by the forbidden technique runes. The dark power in Nye Tian's body weakened rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the dark aura around Nye Tian disappeared. What was even more bizarre was that the wounds all over Nye Tian's body healed in the blink of an eye, and he emanated a sharp aura. What was even more strange was that the wounds on Nye Tian's body healed in the blink of an eye. His body was even stronger than before. Whoosh! Just a moment ago, Nye Tian was on the brink of death. Now he was completely healed. Even his aura was stronger than before. Phew! Nye Tian was also stunned for a long time. It took him a long time to react. He let out a long breath of turbid air, his eyes sparkling. He could clearly feel that his martial body had become stronger. His meridians, flesh, and bones had been greatly strengthened. There was only one reason why Nye Tian's martial body could be strengthened instantly. The 3 forbidden technique runes had leveled up. Nye Tian, your forbidden technique runes have leveled up. Fat Cat exclaimed, overjoyed. Fortunately, he had appeared in time to use the furnace of hell to control the heart of darkness. Otherwise, Nye Tian would have absorbed even more dark power. If that had happened, it was hard to say whether the forbidden technique runes could devour the dark power. Nye Tian nodded slightly. He sensed it and found that the forbidden technique runes had leveled up from the primary mystic class to the intermediate mystic class. There were even signs of advancing to the advanced mystic class. It was the leveling up of the forbidden technique runes that had strengthened Nye Tian's martial body. The greatest benefit to Nye Tian from the leveling up of the forbidden technique runes was not the strengthening of his martial body, but that Nye Tian's strength would increase after the runes were activated. Previously, when Nye Tian activated the 3 great runes, his strength could reach the early stage of an overgod. Who knew what level his strength would reach after activating the runes? Nye Tian, what's going on? Holy Mother Jiuying finally reacted. She quickly walked over and asked in surprise. Nye Tian did not hide it. He told her about the forbidden technique runes in his body. Holy Mother Jiuying was shocked. She had never seen such a terrifying forbidden technique rune in the world. The fact that Nye Tian possessed 3 great forbidden magics that could instantly increase his strength upon activation was simply too terrifying. Imagine if Nye Tian's strength increased to the pinnacle of the paramount god level and he activated the 3 great forbidden techniques. Wouldn't he be comparable to a sage? Wouldn't he be invincible then? Thinking of this, Holy Mother Jiuying could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Her expression changed slightly. Nie Tian was much more terrifying than she had expected. Holy Mother Jiuying could not imagine how shocking Nie Tian's achievements would be in the future. She was even sure that Nie Tian would definitely be able to step into the sage realm. Nie Tian was fine. Instead, it was a blessing in disguise. The 3 great forbidden technique runes had leveled up. This made everyone very happy. Nie Tian's gaze swept across Gao Yuhan and Rui Qianyu as he said seriously, Elder Qianye, the 2 of you have just suppressed the power of the blood devour. You need to rest. Go back first. And the 2 nodded. Right now they indeed needed to rest. Moreover, they could not use the 9 color pupils for a long time. Otherwise, they might trigger the power of the blood devour and the power of darkness at the same time. They had to wait until the power of the blood devour and the power of darkness were completely exhausted before they could use the 9 color pupils again. At that time, they would be completely free from the power of the blood devour. Gao Yuhan and Rui Qianyu left. Nie Tian's eyes flickered. He could not help but look at Holy Mother Jiuying. He smiled and said, Holy Mother, I want to ask you for something. Holy Mother Jiuying smiled faintly. She was very calm. Nie Tian laughed and did not stand on ceremony. He said directly, I want the 7-leaf dragon's tongue orchid. After saying that, Nie Tian stared at Holy Mother Jiuying. He could not help but feel a little excited. He wanted the 7-leaf dragon's tongue orchid to help him merge with the earth vein source. Alright, come with me. Unexpectedly, Holy Mother Jiuying's reaction was very calm. She did not hesitate at all, and only responded with an elegant smile. Nie Tian's expression immediately froze. His mouth opened wide, but he could not say a word. Chapter 1776. After a while, Nie Tian followed the Jiuying Holy Mother to the inner courtyard of the Jiuying Palace. The 2 of them walked along a deep passageway and passed through several stone doors before arriving at the end of a huge stone door. What a tall stone door! Nie Tian raised his head and looked at the huge stone door that looked like a mountain. He could not help but exclaim in his heart. He did not know what lay behind the stone door. The Jiuying Holy Mother walked forward and formed a seal with her hands. A faint glow flowed between her fingers, and the huge stone door seemed to sense it. With a loud rumble, it opened to the 2 sides. The moment the stone door opened, Nie Tian felt a faint fragrance of flowers. It made him feel indescribably comfortable from the inside out. The fragrance was not strong, but it made one feel refreshed. It was very magical. As the stone door slowly opened, an extremely beautiful scene unfolded in front of Nie Tian. What greeted his eyes was a sea of purple and red. Thousands of flowers were in full bloom. Under the illumination of the sun, they shone with a dazzling light. Nie Tian looked at everything in front of him. It was as if he had arrived in another world. It was a paradise of exotic flowers and plants. The Jiuying Holy Mother looked at Nie Tian's reaction from the side with a faint smile on her lips. After a long time, when Nie Tian's expression had recovered a little, she said, Let's go in, Nie Tian. Nie Tian finally came back to his senses and responded in a daze. The Jiuying Holy Mother walked in front, and Nie Tian followed closely behind. He was very careful and did not dare to be careless. He had never expected that behind the huge stone door would be an endless sea of flowers and plants. It was as if all the exotic flowers and plants in the world had gathered here. All kinds of strange flowers and plants had their own forms, and it was too much for Nie Tian's eyes to take in. Nie Tian did not recognize any of these flowers and plants. He had never imagined that there would be so many exotic flowers and plants in this world. In the origin fetus space, the fat cat was also completely stunned. Her blue eyes had stopped moving, and her little mouth was wide open, but no sound came out. Nie Tian, follow me. The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled faintly. As she walked, she gestured for Nie Tian to follow. Nye Tian was very cautious, afraid that he would accidentally destroy these flowers and plants. Soon, the two of them arrived at a secluded corner. This is... Before he walked over, Nye Tian sensed a very familiar smell, which made his face stiffen, and his whole body almost froze. He sensed the aura of the seven-leaf agave orchid. Walking over quickly, Nye Tian saw the seven-leaf agave orchid in front of him. However, it was not just one plant, but an entire flower bed. Nye Tian looked at the flower bed in front of him, and was too excited to say a word. There were at least thousands of seven-leaf agave orchids here. At this time, Nye Tian finally understood why the Holy Mother of Jiuying had agreed to his request so calmly. To the Holy Mother of Jiuying, seven-leaf agave orchids were not much rarer than cabbages. Moreover, the seven-leaf agave orchids here were all alive, and each one was much larger than the one Nye Tian had seen in the Ghost King herbal garden. Their aura was also much stronger. Nye Tian, the seven-leaf agave orchids you wanted are here. The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled faintly and said calmly. Yes, yes. Nye Tian reacted and nodded repeatedly. He was almost incoherent. After taking 3 deep breaths, Nye Tian finally calmed down. He took out the space ring with trembling hands, and carefully took out a seven-leaf agave orchid. Thank you, Holy Mother. After doing all this, Nye Tian bowed slightly to express his gratitude. The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled faintly, but did not say anything. Nye Tian looked at the exotic flowers and plants around him, and his throat could not help but move. He swallowed his saliva, but still turned around and prepared to leave. Nye Tian, what are you doing? At this time, the fat cat's voice suddenly rang out. It was very nervous and very panicked. Nye Tian was stunned for a moment and said in shock, I got the seven-leaf agave orchids, I'm leaving. He had come for the seven-leaf agave orchids, and now that he had it, of course he had to leave. Leave? The fat cat let out a strange cry and almost roared, You're crazy. Nye Tian was speechless. Looking at the fat cat's emotions, it seemed that he was the crazy one. Kid, do you know how precious the flowers and plants in front of you are? I can guarantee that any one of the magical materials here is priceless. Faced with such a huge treasury, you just take a small gold bar and then leave. Aren't you a fool? The fat cat let out a strange cry, very agitated. Nye Tian was stunned for a moment, and then realized that the fat cat was not satisfied, and wanted other things. Nye Tian looked embarrassed. He had previously asked the Holy Mother of Jiuying only for the seven-leaf agave orchids, but now he was asking for more. He really could not open his mouth. Nye Tian, I can guarantee that in the 9 major domains, there is absolutely no other place like this. This is a great opportunity, and we must not miss it. The fat cat was very excited and said, What's the value of your face? Any flower here is not 100 times better than your face. Nye Tian was speechless. It seemed that the fat cat was really tempted this time. In fact, Nye Tian did not know the value of these exotic flowers and plants. If he knew, he would definitely be tempted. Nye Tian, hurry up and say it. This old woman is considered your grandmaster. As your little disciple, if you ask, she will not refuse. The fat cat saw that Nye Tian was embarrassed and was still hesitating, and could not help but urge him. That Holy Mother. Nye Tian was really instigated by the fat cat, and had no choice but to force himself to say it. But his face was red, and he was very guilty. At this time, the Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled faintly and said, Nye Tian, take whatever you want here. Nye Tian was suddenly stunned, and his eyes suddenly shrank. He suspected that he had heard wrongly. The Holy Mother of Jiuying's generosity exceeded Nye Tian's expectations. She actually let him take whatever he wanted. Hearing the Holy Mother of Jiuying's words, the fat cat also opened his mouth wide, and could not close it for a long time. After a long time, he shouted, This old woman is too king straightforward. I like it. Ha ha. Seeing that the fat cat's reaction was almost crazy, Nye Tion's face was full of black lines. Nye Tion, I will wait for you outside. The Holy Mother of Jiuying smiled, and then directly turned to leave. She actually really went outside. Nye Tion, your grandmaster is not bad. I was afraid that you would feel embarrassed if you took it, so I directly left. The fat cat's figure appeared on Nye Tion's shoulder, and it chuckled, indescribably happy. Nye Tion twitched his mouth, but in his heart, he was very happy. The Holy Mother of Jiuying was indeed not bad. Next, Nye Tion began to take whatever he wanted without restraint. The fat cat kept shouting in his ear, I want this, I want this, I want that too. Quick, 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 and that too. Chapter 1777. Holy Mother Jiuying waited outside the stone door. She was not in a hurry. After a long while, Nye Tion walked out. His expression was a little ugly, as though he was very embarrassed. Fat Cat had really gone overboard. She had taken almost a third of the flowers and plants here. Nye Tion had more than 100 spatial rings on him, and almost all of them were full. However, Fat Cat did not feel the slightest bit guilty. Instead, she said, you did not take all the mystical materials. Holy Mother Jiuying can continue to nurture them. If Holy Mother Jiuying looked back, she would definitely be heartbroken. However, Holy Mother Jiuying did not even look. She closed the stone door and smiled faintly. Nye Tion, let's go. Yes. Nye Tion nodded hurriedly. He was extremely guilty. Thank you, Holy Mother. After walking out of the inner yard, Nye Tion bowed to Holy Mother Jiuying to express his gratitude. Nye Tion, you don't have to be so polite with me. Although you are unwilling to stay and be the master of Sky Jiuying, I still hope that you can stay here a little longer. Holy Mother Jiuying smiled faintly. Her every move exuded a noble aura. I'll try my best. Nye Tion smiled faintly. He also wanted to stay in Jiuying Palace a little longer. However, he really did not have much time. He would probably leave very soon. After bidding farewell to Holy Mother Jiuying, Nye Tion quickly returned to his own small courtyard. In his room, Nye Tion said with a frown, Fat, there are so many exotic plants. If we keep them in the spatial ring, they will wither very quickly. It was really inappropriate to keep living things in the spatial ring. They would wither sooner or later. Exotic plants were rare treasures. After they died, their medicinal value would be greatly reduced. Don't worry. I have already thought about it. For the next 3 months, we will stay in Jiuying Palace. Fat Cat chuckled, looking very confident. Nye Tion's eyes narrowed. He could not help but be stunned. Why do we have to stay here for so long? He didn't have much time. Spending 3 months to recuperate was too extravagant. Because you're going to do 2 things next. Fat Cat's blue eyes flickered as she spoke with a strange expression. 2 things? What is it? Nye Tion was stunned for a moment, a puzzled look on his face. The first thing you need to do is fuse with the Earthvein source. The second thing is that you have to create a world. Fat Cat's face suddenly became serious as she said in a deep voice. Nye Tion's expression stiffened. He knew about the fusion of the Terra's source, but what the hell was the creation of a world? Was the Fat Cat sure she didn't say anything wrong? In the past, the ancestors of the 9 great clans had only been able to create a new world, but they hadn't reached the stage of creating a world. Nye Tion was a mere high god. What right did he have to create a world? Nye Tion, you didn't hear wrongly. I was talking about creating a world. And I'm talking about creating a new world, a world that has never existed before. Fat Cat's expression was strange and serious as she spoke seriously. Nye Tion listened with a blank expression on his face, completely puzzled. Fat Cat then said, Don't ask about creating a world for now. Let's do the first thing first. I'll help you fuse with the Earthvein source. Nye Tion thought for a moment then nodded. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Next, Nye Tian informed Rui Qianyu and the others that he would be training in seclusion for 3 months. Rui Qianyu was happy to stay in the nine-headed infant palace, so she did not object. Tang 13 and the others were not in a hurry. After all, the nine-headed infant palace had a spirit concentration spell. It was the perfect place for training. In the blink of an eye, 5 days passed. Fat, is this the 7-leaf dragon's tongue fluid? In one of the training rooms of the nine-headed infant palace, Nye Tian looked at the green, crystalline liquid floating above Fat Cat's paw. His face was full of surprise. Fat Cat smiled faintly and said, "Don't look down on this 7-leaf dragon's tongue fluid. I used 3 7-leaf dragon's tongue orchids to make it." 3. Nye Tian couldn't help but swallow. He did not expect Fat Cat to be so extravagant, using 3 dragon's snake grass in one go. "It's just 3. Anyway, we don't lack the 7-leaf dragon's mouth orchid now. At most, we'll just ask for more from that generous grandmaster of yours when we run out." Little Fat Cat chuckled, a proud look on its face. Nye Tian's face darkened. He did not have the face to ask the Holy Mother of Jiuying for more. "Nye Tian, swallow the 7-leaf dragon's tongue fluid." At this moment, Fat Cat became serious and no longer joked around. With a move of her paw, the 7-leaf dragon's tongue fluid surged in front of Nye Tian. "Swallow it?" Nye Tian was stunned for a moment, but he still chose to believe Fat Cat. He opened his mouth and swallowed it. However, at this moment, Nye Tian felt a violent force being released, rushing into his organs and meridians. Instantly, his body felt like it was about to explode. The 7-leaf dragon's tongue orchid was a heaven and earth wonder. It contained terrifying power, and what Nye Tian swallowed was the 7-leaf dragon's tongue fluid refined from 3 7-leaf dragon's tongue orchids. The power contained in it was imaginable. Nye Tian let out a blood-curdling screech, his face contorted into a hideous expression. "Bear with it." Fat Cat watched from the side and was very calm. In a low voice, she said, "The 7-leaf dragon's tongue fluid contains terrifying life force. It can rush into your martial body and cause it to fall into a state where it is on the verge of breaking. In such a state, it is the easiest for you to merge with the earth vein source." But at this moment, Nye Tian screamed again, and his whole body was twisted. Seeing this, Fat Cat did not panic. With a flip of her paw, a white ball of light appeared. It was the earth vein source. Fat Cat did not hesitate. With a thought, a wave of glass chi was released, activating the power of the earth vein source. Then, she threw it at Nye Tian. The earth vein source expanded in an instant, becoming a ball of light dozens of meters wide, enveloping Nye Tian. In an instant, the boundless power of the earth vein source rushed into Nye Tian's body. The terrifying pressure almost crushed his body. But at this time, Nye Tian had already adapted to the pain. His whole body was calm, and he sat quietly with his legs crossed, allowing the terrifying power to rush into his martial body. "Good boy, you're amazing." Fat Cat saw that Nye Tian was able to withstand such terrifying pain. Her eyes flashed, and she was amazed. Slowly, the power of the earth vein source flowed into Nye Tian's body. At first, it rushed through his meridians, then merged with them, and then into the 9 dragon veins. Finally, through the 9 dragon veins, it gathered in the demonic aura and became one with it. Demonic aura. This was the key to Nye Tian being able to merge with the earth vein source. The earth vein source was the power of the earth vein source. Only demonic aura could merge with it. However, the process of merging was extremely slow. The earth vein source released the power of the earth vein source, and a milky white light flowed in the air. It was extremely beautiful. Nye Tian, ordinary people need at least a few years to merge with the earth vein source. I wonder how long you'll need? Fat Cat looked at Nye Tian, and the corners of her mouth curled up. Chapter 1778. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Within the cultivation room, little fat cat stared at Nye Tian in a daze, its expression filled with shock. Nye Tian looked at the little fat cat with an unsightly expression. He frowned and said, I didn't expect that fusing with the earth vein source would be so troublesome. It actually took me 5 whole days. I thought it would be done in a few hours at most. But at this time, the fat cat's expression was completely stiff. He looked at Nye Tian without moving his eyes. He was so shocked that no words could express the shock in his heart. Nye Tian had only taken 5 days to fuse with the earth vein's source. The fat cat had predicted that Nye Tian would take at least a month. But the reality was far from what he had expected. Nye Tian's strength was far beyond the fat cat's expectations. Fat, are you okay? Nye Tian saw the fat cat's stiff face and couldn't help but ask. He thought that he had taken too long and scared the fat cat. 5 days, it's a little long, the fat cat said with a trembling voice. Although he said that, he was cursing in his heart. What Nye Tian had absorbed was the source of the earth veins, the origin power of the source of the earth. If 5 days was considered too long, then those who needed months or even years to absorb a divine pill should just knock themselves to death. The fat cat was afraid that Nye Tian would be proud, so he didn't tell the latter how monstrous 5 days was. Nye Tian, how do you feel now? After a while, the fat cat calmed down and asked tentatively. Nye Tian stretched his limbs and sensed his body. He said faintly, I'm fine. It's just that my strength is increasing a little slowly. After fusing with the earth vein's source, Nye Tian's strength had increased from early-stage high god to mid-stage high god. He was very dissatisfied with the speed of his improvement. He had thought that fusing with the Lei's origin would elevate his strength by a whole realm, directly reaching the level of a core god. At the very least, he would be able to reach the level of a peak high god. But to his disappointment, it was only an increase of a small level. Fusing with the source of the Lei and directly raising your realm by a small level is already pretty good. The fat cat nodded solemnly and said, You just became a high god not long ago. Nye Tian was now a high-level deity, and to be able to make another breakthrough in such a short period of time was already an explosive speed. It must be understood that for an ordinary high god warrior to advance by a single minor level, they would need at least a few decades, or even a few centuries. Some would even need 1,000 years. Nye Tian, on the other hand, had only used a few dozen days. This was definitely a freak among freaks. Most importantly, with the fusion of the earth vein source and the demonic yuan, your strength will increase much faster in the future. The fat cat continued speaking. He was still a little worried that Nye Tian had fused with the Lei's origin too quickly, so he carefully sensed his martial body. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, he was relieved. Fat, I have successfully fused with the Lei's origin. Now, can we do the second thing, which is to create a world? Nye Tian was a little excited at this moment. He was very curious, what exactly did the fat cat mean by creating a world? The fat cat's eyes flickered and said, Don't be in a hurry, first stabilize your strength, we will do it in 5 days. Originally, the fat cat had planned to let Nye Tian finish fusing with the Lei's origin, then start the second thing immediately. But Nye Tian had fused with the Lei's origin too quickly, so the fat cat was a little worried. For safety's sake, he decided to wait a few days. 5 days passed quickly. Nye Tian stood up, his whole body releasing a sharp aura. His whole body was like an unsheathed sword, showing off its sharpness. Very good, your realm is very stable. The fat cat sensed Nye Tian's aura and couldn't help nodding slightly. He was very satisfied. Even the little fat cat couldn't help but admit that Nye Tian's comprehension of the martial Tao was indeed very strong. He was able to understand new realms very quickly, and was always able to stabilize his realm in a very short period of time. Fat, now it's time to create a world. Nye Tian's eyes flashed with a blazing light, and said excitedly. Creating a world, this idea was too terrifying, and it was very attractive to Nietian. Yes. The fat cat nodded heavily. His expression became a lot more serious and asked, Nietian, do you still remember the Demon Dragon King? Of course. Nietian was stunned, not knowing why the fat cat suddenly mentioned the Demon Dragon King at this time. Of course, he wouldn't forget the Demon Dragon King's Minghui, because the first Demon Flame universe boundary in his body was obtained from the Demon Dragon King. Then you must also remember the place where the Demon Dragon King lived. The fat cat's eyes flashed strangely, and he continued to ask. Of course. Nietian nodded heavily, and then his eyes trembled, as if he thought of something, and exclaimed, I understand, you want me to create a space-time with the universe boundary like Elder Ming. Nietian suddenly remembered that the place where Elder Ming Hui lived was a different space, a space-time created by the latter using the universe boundary. That world was the same as an ordinary world. The first Demon Flame universe boundary was rumored to contain the power of creation. Yes. The fat cat nodded heavily and said, Your strength is too far from the Demon Dragon King's. Moreover, the Demon Dragon King had been fused with the universe boundary for hundreds of thousands of years, so he has a deeper understanding of the power of the universe boundary. Even so, I believe that the Demon Dragon King must have reached the level of Supreme God before he could use the universe boundary to create spacetime. This. Nietian couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this, and asked doubtfully, With my strength, is it possible to use the universe boundary to create a world? Ming Hui's strength was far greater than Nietian's, and his understanding of the universe boundary was also higher than Nietian's. It was based on this premise that he could use the universe boundary to create a world. Nietian basically didn't know much about the universe boundary, and his strength was also very weak, so how could he create a world? With your current strength, it is of course impossible to create a complete world system. The fat cat's eyes turned very strangely, and then he said, What you need to do now is not to create a world, but to create spacetime. Create spacetime? Nietian was stunned and said speechlessly, Is there a difference? In his opinion, spacetime was the world, and the world was spacetime. There was no difference between the two. Of course there is a difference. The fat cat smiled strangely, and said in a deep voice, Spacetime is just a time of nothingness, and there is nothing in it except for time and space. But the world is based on spacetime with many elements, as well as many creatures, power, and so on. With these, it can be considered a complete world system. Nietian frowned and finally understood. The fat cat wanted him to create a time of nothingness, and there was only time and space, and nothing else. But even so, could he do it? Universe, what is the universe? The fat cat saw Nietian's worry, but he smiled slightly and said, The ancient wise man once said that up, down, and four directions are the universe, and since ancient times, the present is the universe. Universe is the boundless space. Eon is the infinite and limitless time. Chapter 1779. The fat cat spoke with fervor and assurance, but Nietian only understood half of it from the side. Space and time, their essence is also a kind of energy, but the form of this energy's existence is different from other energies. Space and time are formed by a series of densely packed space lines and timelines. The fat cat's eyes flickered slightly and said, Space lines are also called universe lines, and timelines are also called universe lines. The space-time of the universe that we are in is formed by universe lines and universe lines. Universe lines? Universe lines? Nietian frowned, trying his best to understand the fat cat's words. Universe lines represent space, and universe lines represent time, so space lines are called universe lines, and time lines are called universe lines. And the vast and boundless universe is formed by the connection of endless universe lines and universe lines. Universe lines open up space, and universe lines derive time. When universe lines and universe lines fuse together, they can form spacetime. The fat cat looked at Nyetian and continued, "The reason why the first magic fire can create spacetime at the edge of the universe is because the first magic fire can produce universe lines and universe lines. So magical." Nyetian was stunned, and his eyes couldn't help but tremble. Such a novel theory, it was the first time he had heard it. It had to be said that although the fat cat was just a cat, the breadth of its knowledge was far beyond that of anyone that Nyetian had ever seen. Even the Sword Elder might not necessarily have the foresight of the fat cat. "Fat, according to what you mean, as long as I stimulate universe lines and universe lines from the edge of the universe, I can create spacetime." Nyetian was slightly excited, and said excitedly, "Of course not." However, the fat cat's reaction was extremely cold, and it said in a deep voice, "If space-time can be created so easily, then I really don't know how vast this world is." Nyetian was speechless. Half of his high spirits were extinguished. "Nyetian, if you want to create space-time, not only do you need to extract the universe lines and universe lines from the boundary of the universe, more importantly, you need to understand the essence of the universe lines and universe lines. Only then will you be able to fuse the universe lines and universe lines together." The fat cat looked at Nyetian and said solemnly, "Now release the boundary of the universe and take a look." "Releasing the universe boundary alone?" Nyetian was stunned and said with an embarrassed expression, "The boundary of the universe and the heart of nothingness have already merged together. How can we release the boundary of the universe alone?" "Are you asking this sovereign?" Fat Cat's face darkened and she said angrily, "Since the boundary of the universe and the heart of nothingness can be fused, then they can be separated. If you can't even do this, how can you talk about creating time and space?" Nyetian noticed that the fat cat was a little angry and couldn't help but become serious. He took a deep breath and carefully sensed the flame of chaos in his body. The flame of chaos was formed by the fusion of the boundary of the universe and the heart of nothingness. If he wanted to separate the two supreme demonic flames, it would not be an easy task. Nyetian carefully sensed and slowly moved his mind, trying to separate the two supreme demonic flames. A moment later, bean-sized beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. But he didn't give up and continued to try. If the first time didn't work, he tried again. If the second time didn't work, he tried again. If the third time didn't work, he tried 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, until he succeeded. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. "I did it!" Nyetian suddenly shouted in surprise. A pale white flame surged in his palm. It was the boundary of the universe. He had successfully separated the boundary of the universe and the heart of nothingness and extracted one of them separately. "Not bad." The fat cat smiled faintly and then said, "But at this level, you are still far from being able to control the two flames. Continue to practice and familiarize yourself with the fusion and separation of the two flames first." "Yes." Nyetian nodded heavily, full of energy. 5 days passed quickly. Nyetian stood in the training room, holding 2 flames in his palms. One was pale white and the other was dark. They were the boundary of the universe and the heart of nothingness. He smiled faintly and the 2 flames merged into one. Then, with a thought, they immediately separated. At this moment, he could control the fusion and separation of the boundary of the universe and the heart of nothingness at will. "Very good." The fat cat smiled, very satisfied with Nyetian's progress. It said, "Next, it's time to practice extracting the universe lines and universe lines from the boundary of the universe." "Good." Nyetian was very excited and nodded heavily. Then, the heart of nothingness in his hand disappeared, leaving only the pale white boundary of the universe. Carefully feel the aura of the boundary of the universe. Enter it with your divine sense and carefully feel the nature of the boundary of the universe. The fat cat's voice sounded, reminding Nyetian. Nyetian closed his eyes and focused all his divine sense on the boundary of the universe. The holographic divine pattern slowly opened and slowly merged with the boundary of the universe. In an instant, Nye seemed to have entered a whole new world. This was a vast and boundless world. There was nothing in the surroundings, only the purest existence of space-time. Nye felt space and time. At first, he could not feel anything, only empty space-time. But as his divine sense went deeper, he began to enter a subtle time. Nye felt as if he were in the middle of a boundless universe. All of a sudden, he felt as if something was passing through his body, which was as thin as silk. He was suddenly stunned, and then he saw countless fine lines floating in space, and they were densely packed together. They were boundless and infinite. A mysterious feeling welled up in Nye heart. He felt that his body had become one with everything around him. This feeling lasted for an unknown period of time. Nye tightly closed eyes suddenly opened and he stood up. His eyes trembled violently, but there was a happy smile on his face. Nye. The fat cat saw that Nye had woken up and shouted, "What did you feel?" "Space-time, endless space-time." Nye's eyes flashed with a strange light, and then he locked his gaze on the boundary of the universe. With a thought, a mysterious line appeared and surged in the air, forcefully opening up the space. Universe line. Nye looked at the thin line and shouted in surprise. Little Fat Cat, on the other hand, was shocked and speechless. He could not see the existence of the universe line, but he could feel the changes in space. He never thought that Nye would have an understanding of the universe line and universe line so quickly. He originally thought that if Nye wanted to extract the universe line and universe line from the boundary of the universe, he would need at least half a month or even a month. He did not expect that Nye could do it in half a day. This kind of understanding talent was too scary. Universe line. Then, Nye extracted another universe line and shouted again. Try to merge the universe line and universe line. The fat cat felt the aura of time emitted by the universe line and let out a strange cry, unusually excited. Yes. Nye nodded heavily. He was even more excited than the fat cat. Nye held his breath and slowly controlled the two lines, trying to merge them into one. The two spiraling curves collided with each other, but then separated. After more than 10 attempts, Nye's forehead was covered with dense beads of sweat. Merging the universe line is much more difficult than extracting it. No matter how strong Nye's understanding talent is, he will need at least a month to merge the universe line. The fat cat looked at Nye with a burning gaze and said in his heart, "Success." However, just as he finished speaking, Nye suddenly let out a strange cry. A small ball was surging on his palm. It was a space-time that was isolated from the real space-time.